Ooh. No infinite Hall of Mirrors sound, thank you. But yes to mod mode. Shrink this down to here. And I think we're good. Two, one, go! Oop. Alright. Hello and welcome to the Bob Plays Lone Wolf Wednesday series, Lone Wolf Saga. We are up to Book 13, The Plague Lords of Rule. Hello? Really? Oh. Okay, well, that's my fault. Obviously, insufficiently prepared. Let's just hit this and then hit restart. How the hell? At the start of this series, you have the option of re-rolling your combat skill and endurance points. If you choose to maintain the current ones, you'll keep the bonus. This is from all your Kai and Magna Kai disciples. No, disciplines. And you'll also gain a bonus of 1 combat skill and 2 health for each Grandmaster discipline that you acquire. If you re-roll them, you'll get a bonus of 25 to the rolled combat skill and 30 to the rolled EP. You will, however, forfeit all of the benefits from your Kai and Magna Kai discipline, and will gain additional combat skill and health only when starting from the 5th Grand Master discipline you acquire. Okay, so it sounds like I'd gain a slight amount of combat skill, but lose a little bit of endurance on net. I like my current stuff. But anyway, we don't care because we're going to hit the restart button. Look, just go. Seriously, just yes. Just go so that I can restart. I understand. Okay. Alright, here we go. The story so far. God. You are Grandmaster Lone Wolf, last of the Kai Lords of Summerland, and sole survivor of a massacre that wiped out the first order of your elite warrior caste. The year is MS 5075, and the 25 years have passed since your brave kinsman perished at the hands of the Dark Lords of Helgadad. These champions of evil, who were sent forth by Nar, King of Darkness, to destroy the fertile world of Magnamund, have themselves since been destroyed. You vowed to avenge the murder of the Kai, and you kept your pledge, for it was you who brought their downfall. When alone you infiltrated their foul domain, the Darklands, and caused the destruction of their leader, Claude Gnag, and the core of their cancerous power that was the infernal city of Helgadad. In the wake of their destruction, chaos befell the Darkland armies who, until then, had been poised to conquer all of northern Magnemund. Some factions which were part of this huge army, most notably the barbaric Dracarim, began to fight with the others for control. This disorder quickly escalated into an all-out civil war, which allowed the free land armies of Magnemund the time in which to recover and launch a counter-offensive. Skillfully, with a single L, their commanders exploited the chaos and secured a swift and total victory over the enemies, despite their far superior numbers. For 5 years now, peace has reigned in Summerland. Under your direction, the once ruined monastery has been rebuilt and restored to its former glory. You've begun the task of training a new order of Kai warriors, so that the skills and traditions of your ancestors can be carried forward for centuries to come. A new generation of Kai recruits, all of whom were born during the era of war against the Dark Lords, possess latent Kai skills and show exceptional promise. These skills will be nurtured and honed to perfection during their time at the monastery, so that they may teach and inspire future generations, ensuring the continued security of your homeland in future years. Your attainment of the rank of Grand Master brought with it great rewards. Some, such as the restoration of the Kai and the undying gratitude of your fellow Summerlending, could have been anticipated. However, there were also rewards which you could not possibly have foreseen. The discovery that within you lay the potential to develop Kai disciplines beyond those of the Magna Kai, which until now were thought to be the ultimate that a Kai master could aspire to, was a revelation. Your discovery has inspired you to set out upon a new and previously unknown path, in search of the wisdom and power that no Kai Lord before you has ever possessed. In the name of your creator, the god Kai, and for the greater glory of Summerland and the goddess Ishir, you have vowed to reach the very pinnacle of Kai perfection, to attain all of the Grand Master disciplines and become the first Kai Supreme Master. A bit Dragon Ball Z. We're getting more powerful! With diligence and determination, you set out to restore the Kai Monastery and organize the training of the Second Order recruits. Your efforts were rewarded, and within a space of 2 short years, your first raw recruits had graduated to become a cadre of gifted Kai masters, who in turn were able to commence the teaching of their skills to subsequent intakes of novices. Readily, the Kai masters rose to their newfound responsibility, leaving you free to devote more time to your pursuit and perfection of the Grand Master disciplines. During this period, you also received expert tutelage in the ways of magic from your most trusted friends and advisors, Guildmaster Bane, leader of the Brotherhood of the Crystal Star, and Lord Ramoa, speaker for the High Council of Elder Mages. In the deepest subterranean level of the monastery, 100 feet below the Tower of the Sun, you ordered the excavation and construction of a special vault. In this magnificent chamber, wrought of granite and gold, you placed the 7 law stones of Nixator, even though several of them literally disintegrated in your hands. The gems of Kai power that you had recovered during your quest for the Magna Kai. It was here, bathed in the golden light of those radiant gems, that you spent countless hours in the pursuit of perfection. Sometimes alone, sometimes in the company of your able advisors, Bane and Ramoa. You worked hard to develop your innate Grand Master disciplines and grasp the fundamental secrets of left-handed and Old Kingdom magic. During this time, you noticed many remarkable changes taking place within your body. You became physically and mentally stronger. Your 5 primary senses sharpened beyond all that you had experienced before, and, perhaps most remarkably, your body began to age at a much slower pace. Now, for every 5 years that elapse, you age but 1. At this time, many changes were also occurring beyond the borders of Summerland. In the regions to the northeast of Magador and the Macken Gorge, the Elder Mages of Desi and the Herb Wardens of Bhutar, I don't know that we've heard of those before, were working together in an effort to restore the dusty volcanic wasteland to its former fertile state. It was a first tentative step towards the reclamation of all of the Darklands. However, although they had had notable success in these regions, generally their progress was painfully slow, and both parties were resigned to the fact that their efforts to undo the damage would take not years but centuries to complete. In the far west, the Dracarim had retreated to their homelands and were engaged in a bloody war against the Lencians. Much of Nyras had been reclaimed by the armies of King Sarnak, the Lencian commander, and his flag now flew over a land which 2,000 years ago had once been part of Lencia. Following the destruction of the Dark Lords of Helgadad, the Giaks, the most prolific in number of all of their troops, fled into the Darklands and sought refuge in the gigantic city fortresses of Nadgazad, Arnak, Gornen, and Kag. Within each of these hellish strongholds, there exists now a state of frenzied civil war, as remnants of the Zaghash, the Lesser Dark Lords, and the Nadzinarim, the evil practitioners of right-handed magic, who once aided individual Dark Lord masters, fight for control. By virtue of their geographic locations and the struggles taking place within them, each of these city fortresses is isolated from the next, and poses no immediate threat to the peoples of the Free Kingdoms. It is widely believed that by the time the Elder Mages and the Herbalish reach the walls of these strongholds, the occupants will have long since brought about their own extinction. Elsewhere, though, in northern Magnamond, peace reigns victorious, and the people of the Free Kingdoms rejoice in the knowledge that the age of the Dark Lords has finally come to an end. Readily, men have exchanged their swords for hoes and their shields for ploughs, and now the only marching they do is along the ruts of their freshly furrowed fields. Few are the watchful eyes needed to scan the distant horizon in fear of what may appear, although there are still those who maintain their vigilance. For the agents of Nar come in many guises, and there are those upon Magnamond who wait quietly in the shadows for the chance to do his evil bidding. Often over the past 2 years, Lord Ramoa has warned you to be wary of one such group. They are known as the Senna Druids, and they occupy a small forested realm to the south of the Stornlands called Ruel, which they made virtually impregnable to invasion through the use of evil herbcraft. Once, long ago, after the defeat of Nar's greatest champion, Agarash the Damned, they were used by Nar as agents of revenge. Then they formulated and released a plague that decimated the Elder Mages and left the way open for their conquest of Magnamond. Now the Elder Mages fear that, as before, Nar will use them to enact revenge for the defeat of his champions. They fear that they will seek to destroy the Second Order of the Kai before it becomes too strong. For your quest of mastery of the Grand Master disciplines has opened the door to such godly power, goodly power, that even Nar himself may be unable to counter it. Unless he closes that door, others of your kind could soon be following in your footsteps. Already the Elder Mages have petitioned the courts of all the Freeland rulers, beseeching them to act immediately and destroy the Senarese before it is too late. Many of the kingdoms they have visited unwittingly harboured secret sects of Senna Druids, who practiced their vile herbcraft, often in remote areas. Summerland was one such land. Only a year ago, a sect of Senarese was found in the foothills of the Derncrags, engaging in blood rituals at a site less than a day's ride from the Kai Monastery. News of this prompted action, which brought about a scourge of the Last Lands. and forced many sects to flee to the safety of Ruel. The regular armies of three nations, Palmrian, Lorden, and Slovia, are now encamped around its borders in an attempt to contain the threat. They remain watchful, but that is all that they can do. The Seneries are too powerful within their own domain for the armies to dare launch an invasion. One such attempt has already ended in disaster. 6 months ago, an allied force numbering 7,000 men entered the forest, intent on storming a fortress of Mogarus and razing it to the ground. 7,000 men went into the forest, and 75 returned alive. Despite the vigilance of the three Freeland armies, the containment of the Seneries' threat within Ruel hasn't been entirely successful. To the south, the Seneries can enter and leave their realm by means of tunnels that honeycomb the Skardos Mountains. These secret passages emerge in the Free State of Karen. The Free State of Karen. None can contain Karen. At the northern edge of the Root Strangle Swamp, which in due course drains into the Tentarius, the great waterway which divides the northern and southern continents of Magnamund. Once access to the Tentarius has been achieved, the Seneries are virtually free to sail any port or country of their choosing. Karen is helpless to prevent the Seneries from using this route through their land. They are a poor nation with few resources, and the Root Strangle Swamp is one of the most difficult places to patrol. It comprises a constantly shifting morass of mudflats and rotting vegetation, inhabited only by tsargs, a carnivorous race of frog-like animal originally bred by the Seneries for the sole purpose of guiding them through the swamp's ever-shifting channels. On Midsummer's Day, Lord Ramoa arrived at the... Oh my god, it keeps going! At the monastery without, as was customary on such occasions, any forewarning of his visit. His unexpected appearance surprised the other Kai and caused them to speculate in whispers about the reasons for his journey. Yet his coming was of no surprise to you. For days you had experienced a feeling of unease. A presentiment? Or presentiment? Yeah, okay. A presentiment that your orderly life at the monastery was about to undergo a dramatic change. Ramoa brought with him a glass vial of pale green liquid that was proof positive that the Seneries were indeed preparing to enact Nar's revenge upon the free kingdoms of Magnamund. The vial had been found among the possessions of a Sena druid caught in the city of Ragadorn, after having been followed there by a watchful herb warden, that's surprisingly hard to say, from Bautar. Under interrogation, he revealed that he had been sent to Ragadorn by the archdruid Kadak, ruler of Ruel, to distribute the vials of this liquid to agents sympathetic to their cause. The herb warden had sent the vial to Desi, where the elder mages, upon analysing the liquid, discovered that it was a powerful vaccine against a new and complex plague virus. Judging by the composition of the vaccine, the plague virus would prove to be several times more lethal than the Great Plague, which had devastated their race thousands of years ago. The Sena succeeded in taking his own life before he revealed anything else. But judging from the evidence in their possession, the elder mages were convinced that Seneries were getting ready to unleash an airborne plague virus that could kill all living creatures of Magnamund, saved for those that had ingested the vaccine. Oh, finally we stopped scrolling. Ramoa informs you that the elder mages are unable to replicate the vaccine in huge quantities, and even if they could, to distribute everywhere on Magnamund would be an impossible task. The herb wardens are sure that the Sena they found in Ragadorn is one of the first to be sent out to distribute the vaccine, said Ramoa, his voice uncharacteristically somber. Therefore, we must act quickly if we are to destroy the virus before Kadak is ready to release it into the atmosphere. Someone must enter Mogaruith. They must find and destroy the plague virus, and they must ensure that this evil work can never again be resumed. For a long moment you stood in silence, staring into Ramoa's eyes. Then with a nod, you acknowledged what had to be done. Only you possess the skills and experience that would be essential to this vital mission. And there is only one Kai Grand Master. Okay, we looked at this whilst working out why the game was bugging out for a second, because I hadn't previously hit the download button for this series of books. And I think the math checks out that I'm better off this way. I would be trading a little bit of health for a little bit of combat skill. What skills do we actually want? Animal Mastery. They have considerable control over hostile non-sentient creatures. They could talk to birds and fishes and use them as guides. You essentially get a full heal once a game. Okay, you get, essentially like a camouflage ability. You get to not need to eat. You can't be surprised and can... Actually, that wasn't described as... This isn't described as being able to actually pathmanship in terms of finding people. Ooh, this is better than the old option. It's 8 for 2 instead of, what was it? 8 for 1 instead of 6 for 2. But you can't do it if you get too low on health. So that sounds really quite good. You gain the ability to use mental defense, but mental defense of other people. This used to be immunity to fire. Yeah, flames, acids, etc. Spirit walking. Mage magic. Under the tutelage of Lord Ramoa, you've been able to master rudimentary skills of battle magic, as taught to the Vakaros, the native warriors of the Desi. These include the use of basic Old Kingdom spells such as Shield, Power Word, and Invisible Fist. Alchemy. Levitation, Lightning Hand, and Mind Charm. It's unclear if this is something that you get to pick. You get to pick. So we should pick sword for the summer sword and bow for the silver bow of Duodon. I'm going to pick that. The other combat skill one. I like the idea of having a full heal in my back pocket. But then things get a bit more interesting. Yeah, let's go with mage magic. Let's test out this new magic. Ooh, do we get another? No, you only get 4 to start with. Okay. Meal. Meal. Note from the armory log. Do I really need this if I have the summer sword? Yeah, no, I don't even want this on me. Because it will tempt me to use it and lose my health points. I don't want to lose health points for forever. I will yoink one of the arrows. That is a lot of Kika. Okay. Yes. You take a map of the Dark Realm of Ruil, a pouch of gold. You can only carry 50. Same as before. You may take 5, but you can only have 2 weapons. Potion. Meal. Meal. What is this black key? And what's that thing? Isn't that one of the mushroom things? No, this was the superfood. Well, I don't want that. So we'll get rid of that for another meal. And then I'm out of space. Blah, 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 blah. No matter how badly you rolled on combat skill and endurance, if you're wise, you should be able to do this. For Summerland and the Kai. Whew. Alright. Grand Master, the quest must begin without delay. For time is not our ally, says Lord Rumoa, as he paces nervously back and forth across the flagstone floor of your monastery chamber. You voice your agreement and call upon your wise friend to counsel you as best he can about the mission you are to undertake. Not entirely to your surprise, you learn that he has already made preparations, confident in the knowledge that you would agree to the quest. He's arranged for you to travel to the free land of Palmrian, where a guide is waiting to escort you to Ruil. The guide can guarantee safe passage to the borders of the Dark Realm, but then no further. He tells you that little is known of Ruil, save that the unnatural forest which surrounds and protects the Senery's stronghold of Mogaruth harbours creatures that are the stuff of nightmares. Some almost defy description. The poor wretches who survived the last ill-conceived and ill-fated invasion spoke of their encounters with gigantic acid-spitting worms that would rise up out of the ground without warning, and devour whole regiments of their comrades with a single stroke. They told also of the battles that were waged across ferocious packs of disease-ridden rat creatures they call Vazhag. The Senerys breed these sentient vermin in warrens deep below Mogaruth, and then release them into the forests to patrol and gather food. For even viler abominations that rarely venture beyond the walls of their stronghold. Truly, I wish that I were able to tell you more, Lone Wolf, but little is known about Ruil. It is a dark and sinister place. There is something else, something that I can give you which might aid your quest. And he holds out his hand. In his palm is the vial of green liquid, the vaccine that will at least protect you from the plague that threatens to destroy so much of the world. You take it, uncork it, and quickly swallow the bitter contents. Unexpectedly, your stomach rebels, and a wave of nausea rises up and makes you slap a hand over your mouth. A few moments later, the nausea fades, and you're able to remove your hand and speak. How long will it protect me? Lord Rumoa smiles. Oh, I'm sure you'll be safe for some considerable time. I'm afraid I forgot to mention that the vial contained a concentrated vaccine. More than sufficient to protect 100 men. Oops. Within the space of a few short hours, you are ready to begin your long journey. Having entrusted the monastery to the care of your Kai masters, you and Lord Ramoa leave by means of a secret tunnel, one of several that you have constructed to enable you to enter and leave the monastery unobserved. You emerge in a clearing at the heart of the Freuland Forest, at a place where Guildmaster Bane is waiting patiently to welcome you aboard Skyrider, his flying ship. Here you take time to bid farewell to Lord Ramoa, who will await your return at the monastery before climbing aboard and placing yourself in the charge of your oldest friend, Bane. Yeah, just one sec, sorry. Boop, 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 boop. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. Bane issues the order to his dwarven crew to set a course for Palmrian. Then, as the hum of the craft's powerful engines rises in pitch, he ushers you to his cabin where a welcoming meal awaits. Effortlessly, the Skyrider ascends into the moonless sky and speeds southwards across Summerland's forested highland. While you endeavour to enjoy your friend's good food and company and try not to dwell too much on the daunting task that lies ahead. Together, you reminisce about past times spent aboard the Skyrider, and recall the adventures you shared in the faraway lands of Anari and Vassagonia. A few hours later, as your airborne voyage is nearing its completion, the conversation turns to the quest at hand. Bane tells you that you are bound for the Palmrian city of Holona, where your guide, Captain Simeon? Simeon? I don't know. Is patiently awaiting your arrival. At once you recognize the name. You recall having heard tell of the captain's feats of bravery during the Darkland War, where his actions won more than a single battle and earned him commendations from a dozen freeland nations. Lord Ramoa has served you well, for in all of Central Magnamond you could not have wished for a better guide. It's an hour after midnight when the Skyrider passes over the glimmering waters of River Renoli and descends towards the flat-roofed Sanitarium, the largest of Holona's 8 municipal halls. There you are greeted by the captain, a man whose proud face bears the scars of his many battles. He offers his hand in friendship, and you are shocked when your fingers close around a palm crafted of cold steel. "A keepsake from the Battle of Avellino," he says, raising his metal hand so that you might inspect it. Alas, the first was stolen away by a Drakar's axe. Your guide is eager to leave Holona before sunrise. His carriage awaits you to take you south to his command at Stonewatch, a military fortification which stands within sight of the Forest of Ruel. Before you leave, Bane wishes you success and Godspeed. He and his crew will be awaiting you here in Holona in readiness to return you to Summerland once your quest has been accomplished. You bid your old friend a fond farewell and settle yourself down into the plush comfort of the captain's carriage. For 4 hours you are lost in dreamless slumber as the carriage wends its way across the hundreds of miles of open grassland trail. When next you open your eyes, it is to the sight of a grey dawn breaking over the Palmrian plain, and the sound of a sentry's war horn announcing your arrival to Stonewatch. A company of horsemen, each clad, like the captain, in ringmail armour and a flowing checkered tunic of crimson and blue, emerge from the outpost and ride forward to meet the carriage. The captain acknowledges their salute and watches with pride as faultlessly they change formation to escort the carriage through the outpost's stout wooden gate. Beyond lies a drill square that even at this hour resounds to the shouts of commands as the measured stamp of soldiers' feet. You disembark near a watchtower, and swiftly the captain ushers you inside and leads you to his quarters on the uppermost level. You spend the day in his company, and together you discuss your approach to the Morgoruth, while you await for night to fall. After careful study of his maps, the captain proposes 2 possible routes by which you might reach the Senery's strongholds. The most direct way is to enter the forests of Ruel and journey due east. This is by far the shortest way, but it could also prove to be the most perilous. You recall Ramoa's account of what lurks in the dreaded forest, and the memory alone is enough to send shivers coursing down your spine. Your alternative is to journey southwards to the Skardos Mountains and enter one of the many subterranean passages that pass through the range. If you can find your way to the Skardos Trail, the secret route by which the Senerys enter and leave their realm, you should be able to follow it all the way back to Morgoruth. Consult the map before making your decision. It's too perilous? And let's have a look at the new map. So we've come from way off screen. And we've arrived at Stonewatch, and we have to get inside Ruel. So the question is, do we go through the forest, or do we go down and then through the mountains? The forest are described as dangerous, so let's avoid them. Let's go with the mountains. A little after midnight, you and your captain guide ride out of Stonewatch on the backs of 2 swift Slavarian steeds. It's another moonless night, and the plain is shrouded by darkness. Yet you have no difficulty in seeing the terrain ahead. Using your natural Magnakai skills of hunt mastery, every flowing contour of the grassland south of Stonewatch is revealed to your eagle eyes. The captain is not so gifted, however. The special spectacles he wears compensate for his lack of night vision. They were a token of gratitude from the Archchief of Charman for his services in defense of the city of Gleesh during the war against the Dark Lords, and they have often been of use to him when scouting his country's border with Ruel. It takes an hour to reach the foothills of the Skardos Mountains. Here, the fertile grasslands of Palmrian give way to a hilly, weed-choked terrain broken by deep canyons and sharp, frowning cliffs. In the pitch blackness, your eyes pick out a trail that loops down the rugged slopes towards a deep canyon floor. The captain takes the lead, and you follow closely as he descends towards the mouth of a narrow gorge, situated at the far end of the canyon. Within this gorge, the trail writhes and twists like the track of a serpent as it cuts its way between 2 towering walls of solid rock. Strange animal-like sounds issue from hollows in the rock high above, and you feel a chill of premonition as you ride deeper into the unwelcoming gorge. At length the trail widens and then divides into 2. The captain veers left, and within a few minutes you espy a fissure in the rock ahead. Silently you dismount and approach it with caution. "Yonder passage leads to Skardos Trail," whispers the captain. "It is a sure route to Morgoruth, but one that is perilous in the extreme. More than a dozen of my bravest scouts have ventured here, and none have ever returned. You would not be thought faint-hearted were you to forego entry and ride back with me to Stonewatch. I will return to your fortress, Captain," you reply resolutely, "but not until my task at Morgoruth has been completed." The captain smiles, raises a steely hand in a salute. "Very well, my lord, so be it. Until that glad day dawns, I shall pray for your safety and success." He brings his horse about, taking yours by the reins, and bids you a final farewell before turning back to Stonewatch. "May the gods watch over you and deliver us swiftly from the darkness of Morgoruth." You return his salute and watch as he rides along the gorge with your steed in tow. The moment he passes from sight, you enter the gloomy fissure. One sec, sorry. Beyond the narrow opening, you discover a dusty passage sandwiched between two walls of rough, unyielding stone. Worm castings and a myriad of animal tracks mark the surface of the dirt floor, revealing at once to your expert eye that no creature larger than a domestic cat has trodden the floor of this passage in the past 3 months. Confidently, you explore, and unhindered by the darkness, you experience no difficulty in following its sinuous course towards the heart of the Skardos Mountains. You've been walking for 2 miles before you reach a junction where the wider tunnel leads away, both to the east and to the west. Unlike the passage, this tunnel has been excavated from the rock, and its wall bears the scars of shovels and picks. Your Magnakai sense of divination reveals no imminent danger, and your pathmanship detects no unusual tracks. If you don't possess either, you can go to the east and by turning here, or to the west by turning here. So it looks like Hunt Mastery is the new divination, at least for pathfinding purposes, but we'll keep our eye on that. Can we look at the map again? So we kind of want to go east rather than west. So east. The tunnel continues for more than a mile before it descends, by means of a steep staircase, to another passageway over 100 feet below the first. Here the air is full of fine dust. You can hear small scratching sounds coming from inside the walls. In the dark distance, you see clearly a score of crab-like creatures grouped in circles on the floor. Their shells are bone white, and you hazard a guess that these strange crustaceans may never have been exposed to the sun. At your approach, they scuttle up the walls with surprising speed and disappear into funnel-shaped holes that ring the ceiling. Riddle the ceiling. Confident that the crabs have taken fright and fled, you advance along the tunnel towards another staircase, the top of which you can just discern in the far distance. You are passing beneath the crab holes when you hear a faint hissing noise, and suddenly you feel droplets of sticky clear liquid splattering your head and shoulders. The wisps of grey smoke arise from your cloak, and you fear a searing pain, as a fistful of red-hot needles were being stabbed repeatedly into your scalp. You're being attacked by a powerful organic acid, and it is rapidly eating its way into your flesh. If you have ability to immunity to cold, fire, and acid ability, turn here. Otherwise, we've lost one of our super healing meals and a rope. In desperation, you muster your skills and attempt to neutralize the terrible effects of the acid. At once, a searing pain abates, but your skills are insufficient to rectify the damage that is already sustained. Lose 8 health. Cursing your luck, you hurry along the tunnel away from this deadly shower. You reach the distant staircase and stop to cut away the parts of your cloak and tunic that have been eaten by the acid. To your dismay, you find that your scalp and tunic are not the only things that have been damaged. There is a smouldering hole in the top of your backpack. You check the contents and discover that 2 things have been destroyed. Ugh. 2 things have been destroyed. So goodbye, rope. We'll miss you. Feeling unsettled by your close encounter with the deadly acid-spitting tunnel crabs, you unsheath your weapon. Smouldering holes are not good, and descend the staircase with renewed caution. 60 steps later, you arrive at a small cavern where 3 tunnels converge, from the north, south, and west. Where does the map say we are? No, not backpack. Map. It is unclear, but we probably want to go east or south. If you wish to take cover in the north tunnel, go here. If you wish to go into the south tunnel, turn here. If you wish to hide, turn here. There are many tracks on the dusty floor, and your Magnakai hunting skills enable you to read them with ease. They are confined to the west and south tunnels. Judging by their size and depth, they were made by large rat-like creatures, but ones that walk upright, like humans. From what you have been told about the denizens of Ruil, you are sure that these are the tracks of the Vazhag, the warrior vermin bred by the Senarese. Among their tracks, you notice others that are far from rat-like. You're about to examine them when you suddenly hear the sounds of movement echoing from the west tunnel. A group of creatures are approaching. You abandon your tracking and look around for somewhere to hide. So we can head north or south or hide in the cavern. Let's try hiding in the cavern. You hide yourselves as best you can, taking advantage of a brace of boulders that lies besides the stone steps. You wait with bated breath as the sound of the approaching groups grows louder and nearer. Torchlight flickers. Yoink. Casting a watery yellow beam across the cavern floor. Then the first of the group enters and you catch sight of their repulsive forms. A patrol of 6 Vazhag flies into the cavern. Oh no, files. Each one as tall as a child, and all are armed with crude, rusty weapons. Fragments of armor and uniforms which once belonged to human soldiers encase their hairy rat-like bodies. They are more than 10 feet away from your hiding place, but even so, they give off such a vile aroma of filth and disease you are forced to draw upon your Magnakai discipline of Nexus to prevent yourself from retching. They come closer and halt at the foot of the stone stairs, barely an arm's length from where you are hiding, and you hear them talking in a high-pitched squeal that reminds you of rusty door hinges. All the while, they repeatedly cast furtive glances at the west tunnel entrance, as if they are waiting for someone from that direction. Within minutes, another member of their patrol arrives. Only this creature is not one of their breed. It is human-sized. However, the hooded scarlet robe it is wearing makes it difficult for you to be absolutely sure that the creature is human. The Vazhag cease their squealing when the hooded one raises a gloved hand. In that instance, you catch a glimpse of the glassy green mask that is covering his face, and at once you recognize it. This is a Jazak, the ritual mask of a Senna druid. If you have the make myself a disguise skill, turn here, or else. At first, the Vazhag and the Senna seem unaware of your presence, and you're confident that your skills are keeping you secure. However, just as they are about to leave the cavern, the Senna suddenly spins around and points at your hiding place. Skarzach-na! He screams, with such vehemence that you are left in no doubt that you have been detected. Is he Michael Jackson? He's a druid. The Vazhag draw their weapons and rush towards the steps in response to their leader's cry. The sudden danger galvanizes you into action like a panther hungry for the kill. You spring to your feet and leap among the onrushing ratmen, striking down the 2 nearest with a wide sweeping blow. Before they have fallen, you kick out at the chest of another and feel its ribs crack under your impact. A sideswipe puts paid to a 4th of their number, neatly parting its disease-riddled head from its shoulders, and as you pause to draw breath, you see the remaining army backing away in shocked confusion. Ineptly they fumble with their weapons, while the Senna screams at them to avenge their slain comrade. One Vazhag plucks up enough courage to attack you, but you duck its whistling sword stroke with ease. Before it could strike again, you dispatch it with a lightning-fast stab through the heart. Your strike is executed with such economy of movement that, to the druids and the remaining Vazhag, it looks as if you hardly moved at all. For the sole surviving Yazhag, this is the final straw. And with a squeal of abject terror, it drops its torch and rusty blade and abandons the druid for the safety of the south tunnel. Cursing vilely, the Senna retreats until his blood-red robed back is pressed against the cavern wall. His filthy mask hides his entire face, yet even as you can be sure that you sense the blaring hatred that is pouring from his eyes, as if it were a stream of liquid fire, you raise your weapon and advance, eager to finish him off swiftly, but before you are all halted by a sudden, unexpected pulse of psychic energy that crashes into you. No, I don't have screen. Lose 5 health. Other guy attacks you while you're under mental thingy. That's gone slightly wrong. We were told to only let our combat skill be 20 for the first couple of rounds, weren't we? So it shouldn't have been 33, but whatever. If you win the fight, turn to page 4. Within a thin gurgling stream, the Senna clutches at his fatal wounds and lies slowly back against the cavern wall. As he crumples on the floor, he raises his hand and, in a last defiant gesture, lunges out to catch your leg. You step back, avoiding the sharp, cat-like claws that have suddenly spouted from his finger gloves. And these poisoned barbs eject their venom harmlessly on the dusty floor. Once you are sure that they are no longer alive, curiosity prompts you to prize away his green masks and look upon the face of this servant of evil. It is an ugly, disease-pocked face human. It is an ugly, disease-pocked face, human in shape, yet lacking any trace of humanity. Before leaving the cavern, you decide to search him and his Vazhag escorts, and you discover these following items: a dagger, a robe, which takes 2 spaces, a mask, money, and a sword. Well, I'll trade a meal for the mask and robe. No reason not to take the single bit of the least valuable money. You hide the bodies of your slain enemies as best you can before you leave the cavern. For more than 5 miles, you follow the west tunnel, and despite your mounting fears, you encourage nothing more threatening than a few ragged-winged bats and a frightened rock snake. Gradually, as the tunnel delves deeper into the Skargos range, the air becomes increasingly cool and more humid. You can smell the scent of water somewhere in the distance. And you are not at all surprised when, as you round a bend in the tunnel, you see shimmering reflections play upon the stone ceiling. If you possess the other kind of magic-y kind of skill, but we don't, you advance towards the shimmering lights. As the tunnel begins to level off in the distance, you see that it opens into a huge cave. The shimmering is caused by a line of glowing beacons hung by chains from the vault-like ceiling of the cave. Their warm amber light is reflecting upon the cold, dark waters of the lake. At first, there appears to be no way across, but as you draw nearer to the tunnel's end, you see a spur of rock and a raised drawbridge on the opposite side. On the near side, close to the platform upon which the bridge rests when lowered, there starts stands a large iron cage filled with giant frog-like creatures. These must be the Zargs that Lord Ramoa spoke of, the scouts bred by the Senators to guide them through the swamps of Karen. A pair of Vazhag are teasing and taunting one of the Zargs with sharpened sticks, jabbing them through the crisscrossed bars with their rusty cage. After a while, the Ratmen tire of this spiteful game. Casually, they cast their sticks into the lake and settle themselves down upon the muddy shore. The larger of the two produces a haunch of maggoty meal from a haversack slung over his shoulder. Eagerly, the two proceed to devour this fine meal. Both are seemingly oblivious to the hungry cries of their caged Zargs. The two Ratmen have only just finished their meal when a group of Vazhag, accompanied by a red-robed druid, enter the cave through an archway on the far side of the lake. The Senna directs the Vazhag to... The Senna directs the Vazhag to man a large capstan-like device, and as they work this creaking hoist, slowly the drawbridge begins to descend. The moment it is fully lowered, the druid and his escort comes shuffling across the bridge single file. They are about halfway over when there is a bubbling rush of water and the surface of the lake seethes, as if it was boiling. A sudden fear grips the Vazhag. They freeze in their tracks, twitching and squealing fitfully? Not frightfully, fitfully, as they stare aghast at the frothing water. Then the Senna screams at them that they ought to retreat, and they scurry back the way that they had come, with the two of you that you saw earlier. The first ones to make it back scamper to the capstan and begin to reverse it as quickly as they can. You see the bridge ropes tighten, and with a tortured crack, the heavy wooden bridge raises off the platform. Feeling that you could be left stranded on the wrong side of the lake, you rush forward and leap for the underside of the rising drawbridge. Like a limpet, you fix yourself to its damp timbers as the bridge approaches the vertical. However, before the bridge is fully retracted, the Vazhag abandon the capstan and flee through the archway, unaware that you are clinging to the underside of the bridge. For a moment, you are relieved that the Ratmen and their druidic master have disappeared. If you hadn't realized the thought of them and discovering you in such a vulnerable situation. Unfortunately, your relief is short-lived, for within seconds of their disappearance, you find yourself face to face with the object of their terror. You catch sight of something huge and grey moving just below the surface of the foaming water. For a moment it disappears, and then with a mighty splash, a great scaly head emerges, with two cold reptilian eyes that flare like yellow flames. It soars up from the icy depths of the lake, perched atop a neck and snout as long as a toa tree. The great scaly head emerges with two cold reptilian eyes that flare like pits of a demented virgin. Come on, I want to read the rest of this. Come on. Thank you. One-handedly, you struggle to unsheath your weapon as the feral-eyed beast hovers above you, its open mouth set with jagged, jagged, jet-black fangs. Hungrily, it watches you, and a rumble issues from its gullet as it steadies itself to strike, It has hideous attack and very good health. We have the wrong kind of weapons for fighting it. And we're on low health. No? Okay, there we go. Activate the Summer Sword and suddenly our combat skill doesn't look so bad, but our health is still terrible. We're not allowed to use our super attack anymore, and yet he's got 2 attack rounds. Oh, we're going to have to use our super heal. Ay. And this was supposed to be the safer way. If you win combat, turn to 219. Your killing blow decapitates the monstrous lake creature, sending its vile head with its fanged jaws, still clashing madly, spinning through the air to flash into the foam-flecked waters close to the platform. For a few moments, the weaving neck, its scaly stump, oozing reptilian gore, thrashes the surface before it too is swallowed up by the dark, cold waters of the underground lake. Aching and breathless, you sheathe your weapon, and then wipe the splatterings of blood from your face with the back of your trembling hand. The Zargs, who were silent throughout your struggle with the lake monster, rattle the bars of their cage and croak incessantly. You recognize their language enough to realize that their captors are returning. However, before you can act on the warning, a shudder runs through the timbers of the drawbridge, and you are forced to grip tightly with both hands as jerkily it begins to descend. Inexorably, the bridge approaches the platform, inching ever nearer to the cold, blood-stained waters of the lake. If you wish to leap for the shore of the lake before it descends fully, if you want to remain where you are, clinging to the underside of the bridge, absolutely not. Not when we've discovered that it's a lake full of giant serpent monsters. You land with a thick splash in the muddy shallows of the water's edge. And seconds later, a voice echoes from the far side of the lake. It is the rasping voice of a Senna druid commanding his Vazhag minions to rush forwards and prevent you from escaping. You hear clawed feet scrambling on the bridge timbers, and you catch sight of 4 vile ratmen racing across the bridge with swords and spears clasped in their hairy paws. I do have a bow. You dig your heels into the muddy shore, take aim at the leading Vazhag. It sees you, and for an instant its eyes widen with horror as your shaft speeds towards its snout. With a hollow "thock," the arrow skewers the beast's scrawny throat, lifts it bodily from the bridge, and sends it toppling end over end into the lake. Undeterred, however, the remaining Vazhag come thundering across the drawbridge and onto the platform. With the magic curses of their leader echoing in their ears, they leap to the muddy shore and charge at you, their rusty weapons glinting dully in the light of the cave. How about we use one of our potions? Go back up to slightly more than below half health. Okay. Next to no damage, but that's not none. Especially now that we don't heal. I'm so used to, in the earlier books, just healing 1 for every time we turn a page. And now that that's not happening, the speed and apparent ease with which you have dispatched his minions shocks the druid to the core. Gibbering with fright, he turns and runs for the safety of the tunnel by which he and his now deceased underlings entered the cave. Anxious to not allow him to escape and raise the alarm, you clamber onto the platform and run across the drawbridge in pursuit of the red-robed figure. The tunnel beyond the bridge is narrow, well lit, and you have no difficulty following your prey. Stealthily and speedily you close upon him like a lion running to ground a frightened fawn. He glances over his shoulder repeatedly as you draw nearer, and then in desperation he skids to a halt beneath one of the many hanging bowls that illuminate the passageway. He raises both hands as if surrendering, but as you approach he grasps the underside of the heavy bowl and then heaves it at you. Suddenly, with a sizzling rush, a gallon of blazing hot oil spills over the stone rim and comes gushing down towards your unprotected face. We lose 4 health to the burning oil stuff. The sinner has begun to cackle gleefully, so sure was he that you were doomed. But now his cruel laughter chokes in his throat as, numbly, he falters and fumbles for a weapon to halt your approach. He draws a curvy bladed knife from a hidden sheath and holds it out unsteadily in front of his chest. You tell him to drop the dagger, but he is deaf to your command. He feints a swipe, then lunges for your heart. You deflect his weak attack with your right forearm and counter it with a left hook to the chin that shatters his glassy green mask. He reels backwards and crashes to the floor, his bony fingers scrabbling at his throat. For a moment he writhes around on the dusty ground, then, as his body stiffens and he lies completely still... Then his body stiffens and he lies completely still. Cautiously you step nearer, expecting some trickery. Then you see that a shattered fragment of his mask has severed his jugular, and you know that he is no longer a threat to you or your life. If we wish to search his body, turn here. Dagger, robe, money, jar of black berries. No, I want to know what it is first, game. Okay, it's something that you can use with alchemy, but we don't have alchemy. And we'll take the money. Not allowed to, we're too rich. You follow the illuminated tunnel with your nerves on edge, your every sense stretched to breaking point to detect anything that could forewarn you of an ambush or trap. You follow it for almost a mile, and it is not until you reach a junction where the tunnel branches off in 2 different directions, north and south, that your vigilance and skill are finally rewarded. To the north, you detect the greasy smell of vashag hide, and another aroma that pleasantly reminds you of boiled offal. To the south, you detect a completely different stench and sticky, gangrenous smell. The reek is fetid, and its origins are unknown. He's jugless? Yes, jugless. His jugular has been destroyed. He is jugless. Does the map tell us what direction? We probably actually want to go slightly south then. The tunnel floor is mostly solid stone, but heavily littered with powdered rock and mouldering rubble. Slowly you advance, treading carefully among the debris to avoid making any sound that could betray your presence. The unwholesome stench becomes the stronger the deeper you explore this eerie passageway. When you finally do sense warmth, it is warmth radiating from within your chest, as if your lungs had been replaced by 2 glowing coals. Your Magna Chi curing skills are working to keep you safe from harm. The air of the passageway is thick with a host of microscopic organisms, a virulent airborne cloud of disease. This is like Zork without the humour, a bit. At length, the tunnel descends to at least we don't have to carry a plant. At length, the tunnel descends to a wide landing where a stone staircase plummets into darkness. Here, to your left and right, you see two small cave mouths crisscrossed with rusty iron bars. Only the slow drip of dank water punctuates the silence, but your super senses detect that these cave cells are not devoid of life. Huddled in the shadows are several blue-blacked shapes, hunched and entangled so as to form one unseemly mass on the floor. Languidly, an eye blinks open, then another, and then three more. Slowly, limbs and torso disengage themselves from the mass and rise up unsteadily. For an instant, you catch sight of the creature, who you are shocked by its awful visage. A shaggy goat-like head is perched atop a snaky neck, and it wobbles repulsively as the beast staggers upright. Like its fellow creatures, its bloated trunk is riddled with disease and decay. As it shuffles drunkenly towards the bars, you see in its hellish eyes a baleful green glow. At first you feel a mixture of revulsion and pity, but then the feeling is replaced by cold fear when you notice that the green glow doesn't radiate from their eyes, it is reflected in them. Swiftly you spin on your heels, your hand reaching instinctively to unsheath your weapon. Confronting you, now at the top of the stone stairs, there hovers a monstrous shape, fashioned as if from shimmering green flame. Two whip-like tentacles extend menacingly from its core, and a toothless fiery maw gapes like a death wound from where, if it were human, a face would be. So it's sort of like a fire whip elemental? Frantically, the cage beasts claw and rattle the bars of their cells as the flaming creature comes gliding towards you, borne silently on moth wings of green flame. I don't see any moth wings, but otherwise that seems okay. I can't stop him with the shieldy shield. The flame creature rises up and hovers little more than an arm's length above your head. Its tentacles lash out, and you are forced to sidestep swiftly to avoid the ensnaring attack. Then, as if spurred on by the frantic cries of the cave beasts, it advances upon you. For a moment it seems to swell and contract, as if it is inhaling and exhaling a huge lungful of air. Then suddenly a wall of blinding white light erupts before your eyes as a blast of psychic energy crashes into your mind. You reel from the unexpected shock of its impact. And your Magnikai senses are unable to shield us from the withering onslaught. Lose 8 more health. If you survive the onslaught, turn here. Holy, 40 and 28 health. Okay, we're going to have to eat another potion. Okay. That at least gets us to 16. That's still considerably less than his 26. We take 3 damage. Otherwise okay. As you strike the blow that seals the creature's doom, it vents a fearful, high-pitched shriek that instantly silences the cave beasts and sends them scurrying for the shadows of their filthy cells. Within the blink of an eye, the ghostly Petch-Drazil evaporates, leaving nothing to mark its existence save the harsh metallic odor of ozone. You wipe your sweat-laden brow with the back of your hand and glance over your shoulder at the cowering creatures huddled in metallic and huddling in their cells. Casually, you sheath your weapon and step forward to stare down the staircase into the gloomy room. You focus upon the darkness. Okay, no, so if you wish to descend the stairs, turn to 106. If you want to go back to the junction and the north tunnel, go to 85. Sure, why not? Stairs it is. Eat or suffer damage. It takes you half an hour to reach the foot of the staircase. There waits a dank cavern, its uneven floor littered with the bones of creatures who fell from the stairs or were consumed by the spectral being which once commanded this vault. Steeling yourself against the unwelcoming gloom, you advance along an oval, white-walled passageway. Why would there be an oval thing here? In any case, at first it appears to be a dead end. Then you notice a faint light reflecting from the surface of the water, and you look up to see a hollow directly above. It is a natural chimney and rises into the ceiling. At its end, you see a warm yellow lantern-like glow. The chimney is rough and pitted, and to someone of your experience, could be a considerably easier climb. Yes. Within 10 minutes, you reach the neck of the chimney and find yourself staring through a hole at the tunnel of a passageway beyond. The source of the light was coming from several oil lamps that hangs at regular intervals from the roof of the narrow tunnel. You can sense the presence of Vazhag, but you choose to wait here in case a patrol is being sent out now. During the wait, eat or suffer damage. So, eat. After observing the tunnel for several minutes, you sense that there are no Vazhag in the immediate area, and you decide it is safe to enter. Silently, you drop down into the passage and head off towards the north, using the shadows and your skills to shield yourself as best you can as you advance. There is a slight gradient to the tunnel, and gradually, as the stone floor ascends, you feel a draft of warm air gently pressing against your face. It feels comfortable, and yet it is far from welcoming, for the air is sticky and humid, as if it is the breath of some great jungle beast. In the distance, you hear a fire-like roar and another sound, squeaking, which forewarns you that Vazhag lie ahead. Your advance, marked by your Magna-Chi... You advance, masked by your Magna-Chi skills, and step forth into the massive chamber, which is lit by a fierce light of volcanic fire. From a crater in the pit at the chamber's center, a jet of red-gold flame roars up into a towering height, and clouds of steam fill the cantankerous roof space, where it plays upon a ceiling of damp rock. Around the pit are constructed several smaller domed huts, all made of volcanic clinker scavenged from the crater's edge. The huts house a colony of Vazhag. You count more than 50 females and their young. Though you estimate by the number of dwellings that about twice that many should belong here. Using your skills and the advantage of the flickering shadows that dance throughout the cavern, you circle around the settlement unseen. On the far side, there is an onion-shaped archway. No, it is an onion-shaped archway. Vazhag males, all of whom are heavily armed and armoured, guarded by 6 Vazhag males, all of whom are heavily armed and armoured. You move a little closer, confident that your natural abilities will get you past these oversized spear-toting rodents. You are immediately brought back to a halt by a daunting sight. A few feet beyond the archway stands a massive portal, a wall of solid black iron. We don't have hunt mastery, so we're forced to go here. Waiting in the shadows, camouflaged from detection by your skills, you patiently observe the portal and guards. After several minutes, the resonant boom of a metal gong echoes in some deep and distant part of the collective psyche. As the echoes slowly fades, another sound, that of metal scraping on stone, resounds through the cavern. Then a crack of light appears along the bottom of the portal and... with a grating screech, the great wall of iron slowly raises up into the ceiling. Through the opening comes another patrol of Vazhag, who are escorting a wagon stacked high with wooden boxes, barrels, and sacks. A sudden rush of female Vazhag, all squealing and clamouring. Cheers, Domain. All squealing and clamouring for food. It brings the wagon to a halt directly beneath the onion-shaped portico. The escort struggles to fend off the hungry females with what little effect it can, until a spine-tingling screech, whereupon the portal begins to ascend. A wave of panic washes over the Vazhag, and they turn and run back into the cavern, fearful of being crushed beneath the falling iron door. When it is just a few feet from the wagon, the portal shudders and grinds to a halt. Those few guards and Vazhag escorts who remained nearby quickly rush forward to drag the wagon from beneath the portal. You notice that the females are beginning to return, and you know that you must act now if you are to escape the cavern before the wagon is pulled clear. If you have Psi Surge and want to use it, turn here. If you have invisibility... Sure, well, let's be invisible. Trusting your Magna Chi skill of invisibility, you leave your hiding place and attempt to slip past. Pick a number from the table. If you have the new advanced disguise making thing, add 3. We roll high enough that we presumably don't fail. Effortlessly, you sidestep and dodge your way through the throng of rat men who are gathered around the wagon in a frenzy of activity, and escape into the empty passage that lies beyond the iron portal. A few minutes later, you're exploring a new tunnel. You hear a great door close with a rumbling boom. The passage continues eastward for several miles, and with the exception of the occasional sentry, it is virtually deserted. At length, you arrive at the entrance to another hole, smaller than the lava cavern, but equally as crowded. Daylight streams into this hall through a large archway guarded by armoured Vazhag. It will be very difficult, even for someone as gifted as you, to escape that way undetected, and so you resolve instead to escape by means of a smaller opening in the rock wall. Pick a number from the random number table. If you possess hunting, add 3. We've rolled shit. Using all your stealth and natural Chi agility, you inch your way up the rocky wall of the cavern towards the window-like gap. Your ascent goes undetected until, by mischance, your foot dislodges a pebble, sending it tumbling down to land with a hollow thock upon the head of a snoozing doggo. The doggo erupts with a savage howl and hurls itself bodily at the rock wall. Its frenzied reaction alerts the guards who, to your horror, produce bows, which they seem to load hastily and aim at your back. Throwing caution aside, you climb towards the distant gap as quickly as possible, hoping to reach it before the rat men can fire. You're in a few feet of the gap when the first of the Vazhag arrows screams towards your leg. You twist aside and avoid one of the shafts, but then another hits you in the leg and gouges a furrow of flesh from your calf. Lose 3 health. Gritting your teeth against the sharp pain, you drag yourself through the narrow opening and emerge on a mountainside, in a place hidden beneath an outcropping which is ringed by wind-worn boulders and scrub. Early morning sunlight illuminates the surrounding hills, and beyond them you see a vast expanse of forest. A sea of sickly green trees which radiates an unmistakable aura. Okay. An unmistakable aura of evil. The position of the sun and your pathmanship skills tell you that you are now looking upon the forest of Ruiel from the eastern foothills of the Skardos mountain. So we made our way through the supposedly less dangerous mountain. The land appears deserted, and only a few unusual features are a wide dirt track that wends its way eastward through the hills towards a gap at the edge of the grim forest. You consult your map and conclude that this must be the Skardos Trail, the secret route used by the Seners, which lead all the way to Mogaruth itself. You resolve to follow the trail, but first, as you hobble away from the ledge, so the Vaz tag don't get to attack again. Continue, turn to page 230. Using your camouflage skills to mask your passage, you enter the forest and follow the track into the deepening gloom. Your senses come alive to the evil that permeates everything here, every branch and root of this forbidding place, and as darkness closes in, your fears are heightened by a sickly mist that seeps out of the ground. Its corpse-like chill leaves you shivering, despite all of your efforts to shield yourself from its clammy touch. You are a Grand Master, and night no longer restricts your vision. As the track ascends towards a wooden peak, you see the outline of a ruined stone watchtower, perched atop a rock of gently... No, I've done something wrong there. You sense the tower is deserted, and keen to escape from the mist, you climb towards a crack in the granite base. You crouch to enter the jagged breach, and in doing so, you disturb a host of crab creatures nesting within. Oh no, not the acid crabs again! In a frenzy, they scuttle away from the tower, disappearing amongst the surrounding rocks in the blink of an eye. Aching with fatigue, and mindful of the perils that lie ahead, you settle yourself into a corner of the rubble-strewn tower and try to snatch a few hours of sleep. This night, your slumber is disturbed by strange and unwholesome dreams, formed from the fears suppressed by your conscious mind. You are hunted by phantom shapes that take the form of friends and fellow countrymen, Kai initiates under your tutelage and simple summer-lending folk. Their heads bowed and their faces pitted and disfigured by plague drift past you in a seemingly endless procession. You awake with a start, your pulse racing and your forehead glistening with beads of sweat. At first, your sense of hopelessness washes over you, brought out by the avid memory of your nightmare. But as your consciousness returns, so too does your inner strength. You perceive the dreams as a warning of what would happen should your quest fail, and this realization strengthens your resolve to reach Mogaruth and thwart the Senner's evil plan. You have slept for several hours, and physically at least you feel refreshed, recover a teeny tiny amount of health. In the half-light of the early morning, you gather together your equipment and weapons in readiness to resume your perilous journey to Morgaith. You decide that to travel openly on the track would be too risky. Rather than chance falling foul of a Vazhag patrol, you set off through the forest using the trees for cover, all the while keeping the trail within sight as you trek northeast through the Senerus stronghold. Towards the Senerus stronghold. As long as there's not a Balrog, your decision is soon justified. Within a few minutes, you are forced to hide when a rickety wagon laden with casts and escorted by a dozen Vazhag appears on the trail ahead. Unaware of your presence, the detachment passes within yards of your position before continuing on its way south or north. I mean, they did say they were a subsidiary, so... It is an hour past noon when the trees thin out and you catch your first glimpse of Mogaruth. Crouching at the forest's edge, you stare awe-stricken by the sight of its slime-green walls and towers. This vast Senarese fortress rising out of the land like a thrusting fist of some vile volcanic demon, bristles with formidable defences. Turrets and bastions punctuate its sheer stone walls, and its base is ringed by a moat of bubbling water. A single drawbridge spans this moat, providing the sole access to an archway lined with iron spikes that give the entrance a monster appearance, like that of a gigantic fanged maw. You catch your first glimpse of Mogaruth, the vast Senarese fortress rising out of the land like a thrusting fist of some volcanic demon. Picture, 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 picture. Two muddy tracks lead away from the drawbridge. One is the Skardus Trail, the tracks that brought you here, and the other is due east. You consult your map and discover that it leads to River Storm, less than 5 miles distant. There, a bridge spans this mighty waterway, connecting Rule to the realm of Slovia. A small army of Vazhag, accompanied by a host of other creatures of doubtful origin, are marching away from Mogaruth in a column. Judging by their numbers and the wagon loads of equipment that trundle in their wake, you suspect that they are marching to battle with the Freeland armies of Slovia. In order to destroy the plague virus, as is your quest, you must gain entry to the stronghold. Anxiously, you watch as the minutes pass and you scan the interminable lines of marching Vazhag and the fortress walls in hope of spotting some means by which you might enter Mogaruth undetected. This option, if you possess a Senna mask and Senna robe, go here, or else go here. We do have a mask and robe. Quickly you unshoulder your pack and remove the mask and robe. The garnet of the mask still bears the vile smell of the creature that once owned it, making you hesitate before putting it on. But you are determined to enter Mogaruth undetected, and by wearing this outfit you hope to achieve just that. Erase these things from your backpack, but note in the margin of your action chart that you are now wearing them. What is this game, Dawntreader? It is a digitization of a sort of choose-your-own-adventure book, but a choose-your-own-adventure book that has some, like, dice-rolling combat mechanics as well. So, in the top left, you see essentially our attack skill. In the top right, our health. We have 23 of 48 health. There are fights against monsters, or maybe you don't disarm a trap properly, or you choose a path that is dangerous and fall down a rock slide or something, and you take health damage. And if you run out of health, you have to start the whole adventure over again, because you died. Start an alternate timeline in which maybe you succeed. So it's about sort of going... It's a bit like a D&D campaign, but being run by a book instead of being run by a dungeon master. There are only set sort of paths you can go down because it's a, pre-designed book. But I really, really liked these as a, 12, 11-year-old kid. And they were books that I would borrow from various libraries. And even then, they didn't have all of them. and you'd track track all your inventory and health and stuff on paper, just like sort of standard desktop or tabletop D&D. But at the turn of the millennium, the author made publicly available a digital copy of all of the books. And some people made this little software that sort of references that digitally available copy and has automatic tracking and combat so that you don't have to roll the dice yourself, track your health going up and down, track your inventory backpack of like how many meals I have left, and let's go have a look. How many meals I have left, all the special items I'm carrying, how many gold pieces and silver pieces and whatnot I have. It does all that automatically, which is honestly amazing compared to, like, I went through dozens and dozens of pieces of paper of my health, tracking my health going up and down and up and down and up and down, playing these books. Doing it digitally is a far more elegant way of doing it. But when I was a kid, it was just, there's no such thing. And so, yeah, I wanted to play these through to get to play the books that I never had access to as a kid. And because, as far as I can tell, it's not really content that exists. Like, I think there's a grand total of one other person that I could see easily that has played even some of these and made like YouTube videos, etc. about it. So, A, it's something that I want to do for me, and B, it's sort of very unique content that I would like to exist in the universe and other people to have access to, so I'm doing it. Okay, we put on the mask and robe. Once you've donned your disguise, you crawl to a clump of dense foliage at the edge of the forest and wait patiently for your opportunity to act. Eventually, your patience is rewarded when you spy two Vazhag approaching Mogaruth from the Skardus Trail. They are leading on a chain what appears at first glance to be a man, although the impression is soon dispelled as they draw closer to your hiding place. Trailing behind them is a creature with no free will of its own, a being that was once human but is now consigned to the twilight world of the undead. The sight of this stiff-limbed zombie propelling itself forward on withered grey limbs fills you with revulsion and pity. With difficulty, you suppress your anger at the creatures who have caused this transformation, and, as the Vazhag draw level, you emerge from the foliage and order them to stop. At once the Ratmen obey, deceived by your disguise and your command of the Senarese dialect. Nervously, their red eyes regard you, and they shuffle uneasily as they wait for your command. So yeah, this is something that you can download for free and play on your phone. I would suggest it actually makes for a nice read. Or something to do while waiting for the bus or train, whatever. Free game, Lone Wolf Saga. So, if you wish to ask them what they're doing, if you want to order them to accompany you, go here. What the hell are you doing? No, I clicked the wrong one. Well, sucks to be me. The Vazhag shiver with fright. They acknowledge your order and set off towards Mogaruth with you. You follow close behind. They've only gone a little way when suddenly they drop the zombie's chain and flee. I have a bow and arrow. You retrieve your bow and arrow and fire at the fleeing Vazhag before either has taken a dozen paces. In lightning succession, you draw and fire two arrows, sending the shafts thudding into the backs of the two Ratmen with unerring accuracy. They crash to the ground and lie still. Your swift dispatching of the Vazhag has gone undetected. And, anxious that this remains so, you rush forward and drag their bodies away into the undergrowth. Within minutes, your task is complete. You still have to find a way to enter Mogaruth, though. As soon as you return to the trail, you are struck by a bold idea. Calmly, you approach the zombie, who has remained stationary throughout the incident. You stoop to retrieve the poor creature's chain. With a pounding heart, you turn and walk slowly along the trail towards the crowded drawbridge. The columns of armoured ratmen pay you little attention, but your undead charge elicits squeals of disgust from some as you draw closer to their mighty stronghold. Walking across the age-blackened drawbridge towards the spiky arced tower of Moguruth is an unnerving experience. It is as if you are walking along a blackened tongue towards the gaping throat of some gigantic dragon. On either side, the bubbling moat releases foul fumes which fill your nostrils with a terrible sugary stench that clogs your lung and blurs your vision. You draw upon your Magna Chi skills and your vision clears, but the sight which lies ahead is no more inviting than before. At the tower, you are challenged by a troop of Vazhag guards who regard your companion with a distaste that is all too obvious. Using your Magna Chi disciplines of animal control and pathmanship to aid your deception, you inform them that you have come from the south on urgent business. They demand to know your name and why you have charge of an undead human. You try to bluff them, but notice that the zombie's presence is attracting unwanted interest from other guards. One of the ratmen pushes his snout to within inches of your mask and says to your surprise that you may enter, so long as you register your arrival. He points to a door in the tower wall and asks you to enter it. There you can make your registration. Zombies don't socialize well. Immediately, your sense of divination warns you that he's lying. A prison cell awaits you beyond that door. We'll try and distract them. How dare you delay me with trivial formalities? You slap him with the side of your palm. The creature snarls and raises a spear. Delay me a moment longer and I will see you boiled alive in your own grease. You shall let me pass. Your bold threat works, and the Ratman's confidence crumbles. Nervously, he shuffles to one side, lowering his spear as you advance towards him. At the moment, a column of Vazhag and a wagon laden with weapons converge beneath the archway, blocking it completely. Chaos ensues, but the confusion is to your advantage. Quickly, you abandon your undead companion and weave your way through the crowd into the keep beyond. There, you notice several smaller entrances surrounding the flag-stoned square. One in particular looks promising, a staircase that descends to a portal set into the base of the citadel. You are heading towards this entrance when unexpectedly you are confronted by 3 Senna druids. They emerge from an alley and come walking towards you in a line abreast. To avoid them, you are forced to sidestep quickly into a shadowy doorway. From the darkened doorway, you watch the activity taking place in the keep, hoping to see something that will help you locate where in Moguruth the Sennaries are producing this deadly plague virus. From out of the milling crowds of Vazhag, there suddenly appears a small group of red-robed Senna druids, talking to each other as they walk towards your hiding place. Quickly, you pull away from the open doorway and retreat deeper into the building. A narrow corridor takes you to a flight of steps that descends to where a passage crosses your path. The ornately painted sign written in Sennaries indicates that may be found at the end of each passage. You read the sign. The arrow points left and says library, while the arrow that points right reads lab. I mean, lab sounds more likely to be where they're going to be making the plague stuff. Silently like a cat, you pad along the corridor towards a distant light. The promise of finding a lab has raised your hopes in a swift victory, for perhaps it is here that you will find where the Sennaries are crafting the evil diseases. The entrance to the laboratory is unguarded, so you slip inside its open door and hide behind one of the many stone pillars that supports its cavernous roof. At the center of the chamber, you see 2 robed figures huddled over a stone table. Surrounding them are wooden racks filled with strange implements, scrolls, books, jars, and other paraphernalia. They appear to be tending to a large frog-like creature. You recognize... Wait, what? Which lies spread-eagled upon the table, its limbs secured by coarse ropes. It is not until you step away from the table that you recognize it to be a stole. No, a sloat. A beast of burden much used to tow river barges along the River Strom. Your stomach churns when you see the poor creature is being dissected whilst alive and conscious. If you've played the previous books and went to this specific place, turn here. As the two figures turn from the table, you recognise the red robes they are wearing. At first you assumed them to be Senna-Druids, but their garments aren't quite the same. They have black hoods, and the skull-like motifs that they have embroidered upon them identify them to be members of an evil sect known as the Acolytes of Vashna. The presence here of two worshippers of Vashna, who was once the greatest of all Dark Lords, rekindles a chilling memory from past encounters with these fanatics. Following the downfall of the Dark Lords, you had assumed that the last remnants of these sects had vanished forever. Yet here before you are two who still wear these robes and practice their vile necromantic art. Fearful that you've stumbled upon a secret Sennaries conspiracy, you inch your way closer to the robed men and listen to their whispered conversation. The two figures look down at their ghastly handiwork and shake their heads in dismay. As you watch, the slow shudders beneath its bonds and becomes abruptly still. One of the robed figures stoops to inspect the creature's exposed heart. Then you hear him whisper words of disappointment that, yet again, their experiment has failed. They wipe their bloodied hands on their robes before leaving the lab, locking the door behind them. Sensing that you are alone, you take the opportunity to search the lab, including 7 of its 8 smaller ante-rooms, but you find nothing that remotely resembles the cultivation of a plague virus. The 8th room, the door to which is bolted and barred, is the only area you haven't investigated. Although the main door is now locked, during your search you discovered another exit. No, let's search the 8th room. Using your Magnakai powers of Nexus and the strength of your own 2 hands, you force open the barred door and gain access to the anteroom. It is unlit and every surface is thick with dust that has lain undisturbed for many years. On a marble dais, which occupies most of the floor, there stands a large rectangular stone casket. It has no lid, and as you approach it, you see that it contains the mummified remains of a creature that you cannot easily identify. You feel no evil in the vicinity of the corpse, and your senses tell you that there is nothing other than yourself in the room. Confident in this knowledge, you lean forward to examine the corpse. Without warning, a powerful spike of psychic energy penetrates deep into your mind. Its icy cold attack numbs your senses and leaves you trembling helplessly in shock. Lose 6 health. Reeling from the unexpected onslaught, you struggle to erect a shield as the mummified remains of the corpse slowly stir to life. Suddenly, a claw-tipped limb snakes towards your throat and grabs you in a vice-tight grip. You struggle to unsheath your weapon and free yourself from the grisly remains of a plague Agarashi, which rises up from the casket inches before your disbelieving eyes. You have 3 less skill for the first round of combat because it's surprising you. Remember, if you have the Summer Sword, it does double damage. I kind of should eat another potion if we have one. Alas, no. Well, here goes. At least we do double damage. Your enemy was able to stab you before you killed him. He has only harmed you modestly. Yeah, modestly. I'm down to a 3rd health. 30% health. As your killing blow severs the creature's body, the 2 halves explode, scattering shards of mummified remains around the chamber. The force knocks you backwards, and as you fall, you catch a glimpse of wispy smoke, ghost-like shadow, rising towards the ceiling. It halts for a moment, and then seeps through the solid stone ceiling like smoke through a veil. Before leaving the chamber, you pause to search the stone casket. Inside, you discover a few mouldering rags and a copper key. You may keep this item. I've got no reason not to. We've got space. Cursing your ill luck, you leave the chamber and head towards the laboratory door. On the other side of it, you discover a series of narrow passageways that eventually end in an antechamber. The domed chamber is decorated with tapestries that depict Sennaries legends, ignoble and infamous deeds that were perpetrated during the age of the Old Kingdoms, when for nearly 1,000 years they tyrannized northern Magnamond. A single heavy oaken door on the opposite wall offers the only exit from the antechamber. As you approach it, you notice that it is slightly ajar. Suddenly you hear doleful sounds of chanting emanating from beyond the door. Curiosity prompts you to peer through its narrow opening, and as you do so, a chill runs down the length of your spine when you see what lies beyond. Beyond the door lies a secret Sennaries prayer hole, a chapel of evil where the druids worship and make sacrifice to their foul gods. Kneeling in pews before a blood-red altar are dozens of figures. They chant a soulless dirge as they read from books bound in black cloth. Around the walls hang grim decorations, skulls, flayed skins, tattered battle banners, and other ugly tributes to the power that is worshipped and coveted here. The power of death, disease, and decay. You look with loathing at the congregation. In the main, they are Sennaries. But there are others among them, old adversaries whose origins you immediately recognize. Acolytes of Vashna, Dracarim, Vasagonian outlaws, Hammerlanders, and even some Giaks. No doubt the remnants of the Darkland armies have found sanctuary here after their master's demise. A noise in the corridor behind warns that someone is approaching the antechamber. To avoid them, you slip inside the prayer hall and hide in the shadows cast by a column which supports the roof. Moments later, 3 druids enter the hall and close the door before taking their places among the congregation. In case there are any among the congregation who have the power to sense your presence, you draw upon your disciplines of camouflage and mental defense to minimize the risk of being detected. A few uneventful minutes pass until another druid enters the hall, ascending from a circular stairwell to your left. He is a tall, imposing figure dressed in glittering blue robes, edged with black velvet. The congregation rises as he walks to the altar. There he turns to face them. "Be seated, my brothers," he commands in a voice that is deep and resonant. At once you suspect that he is the archdruid Kadak himself. But his opening address soon dispels this idea. "The battle against the Slovians goes in our favor. We have repulsed their puny attacks, and our defenses along the Storn remain intact. The Slovians are beaten. They remain too weak to threaten us. I, Cadrian, have seen the great river run red with the blood of their slain." Upon hearing this, the congregation screech their approval, until Cadrian calls for silence. Then, from a tome lying on the altar, he begins to read the opening passages of a service dedicated to Zuzar, a Sennaries god of pestilence. The gathering fall to their knees, raise the hoods of their robes, and close their eyes in reverence as they listen devoutly to Brother Cadrian's sonorous voice. Reverence, 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 reverence. Anxious to leave this hall, you look around for the means of escape. 2 opportunities present themselves: the circular stairwell by which Brother Cadrian entered the hall, and a door to your right, marked vestibule. So do we go down into the chamber from which the semi-priest, like the semi-high priest came, or into the vestibule? Let's go down into his secret chamber, maybe. You make your way towards the stairwell and descend the steps without being seen. The circular stairs spiral down 50 feet to a chamber below the hall, empty save for a line of red robes and masks that hang from pegs driven into the marble wall. If you already have one, turn here. A narrow corridor connects this chamber to another. where there stands an imposing door made of sheeted copper inlaid with filigree of gold and silver. It is the only exit from this otherwise drab chamber. A closer inspection of the door reveals that it is surrounded by an airtight seal. There is no keyhole, bolt or handle. However, your keen eyesight is drawn to a pattern on the door's centre panel, which thanks to your experience you recognise as a sophisticated combination lock. The gold inlay forms 3 rows of 3 numbers within a silver grid of lines. Below these numbers, in ancient Sennaries script, is carved the message, "Declare ye the true number to pass this way." So did all the numbers add up to the same thing? 4, 9 and 2, 13, 15, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, it looks like everything adds up to 15. Yeah, so 15 is the magic number. This is correct. Proceed with your quest. Puzzle mastered. Tzlista, you say, the ancient Sennaries word meaning 15, and immediately you hear the door's locking mechanism disengage. There is a hiss of escaping air, and the heavy portal swings slowly inwards on massive hinges. Without hesitation, you step through the doorway and enter the circular tunnel beyond. You follow a circular tunnel for several minutes until you come to a flight of steps leading down. Here, a few paces before the steps begin, you see a plain wooden door that is set into the tunnel wall. An inquisitive prod with the boot of your toe? The toe of your boot reveals it to be unlocked. Sure. We'll investigate. You enter a small, foul-smelling chamber lit by a single candle, perched atop a 3-legged stool. A bed with a straw mattress fills one corner, and a bench with drawers stands by its side. A shelf on the wall displays 3 cracked plates, a lump of stale cheese, some dried meat, bread, and a bottle of brownish water. You pull open the drawers and find some assorted clothing, infested with fleas, and a copper key. If you decide to keep the key, remember to mark it on your action chart. A second copper key? We have 2 of them now. And we'll take the meal, why not? Satisfied that nothing has been overlooked, you leave the room and descend the stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, the tunnel continues in a straight line towards a stout wooden door that is studded and braced with iron. You sense that it is locked even before you have reached it. When you reach the door, you notice a keyhole located beneath its rust-pitted handle. If you have a copper key, go here. You insert the key and twist it. The lock opens with a satisfying clunk, allowing you to open the door and enter the strange and eerie hole. Before you stretches a cavernous hole, lit by the glow from fire-filled orbs hanging by chains from the ceiling. Facing each other are 2 rows of stone statues which form a grotesque corridor leading to an archway on the far side. A flicker of fear chills your heart when you notice that the expressions frozen upon their misshapen faces are those of pain and despair. Cautiously you advance. You are wary of the statues and your body is tense to react should they show the slightest hint of animation. Then you detect something that makes you freeze mid-step. Your senses warn you that something is sleeping in the shadowy alcove close to the distant archway. Anxious to not disturb whatever is resting there, you call upon your camouflage skills to mask your presence before moving any nearer. So roll around a number table. If you have the new higher level camouflage thing, get a bonus. We rolled crappily. You are within 20 feet of the archway when suddenly a tremendous roar echoes through the hall. You start to run, hoping to make it through the arch and escape a confrontation, but almost immediately you are brought skidding to a halt by a terrifying sight. Advancing from the alcove is a creature whose ghastly visage is the stuff of nightmares. A bear-like torso, has 4 tentacles and 2 powerful legs, all sheathed in shaggy scales. The limbs are surmounted with horny talons, which glint menacingly, and its head, set with huge fishy eyes, is bulbous and disfigured by disease. It rests awkwardly upon a crooked neck which wobbles with every movement of the lumbering beast makes. A livid crimson gash just below the eyes serves as its mouth, and a long tail with sharp spines swishes behind it, gouging furrows in the surface of the marble floor. With a surprising speed, the beast is upon you, slashing at your body with its sword-sharp talons. It is immune to Mind Blast and Psy Surge, but not Kai Surge. Alright. We only have slightly more attack skill in it, and it has a fair bit more health. We roll really well on our first attack. Really well on our second attack. About the same on our third. On the fourth, it does quite a bit better. And then we finally kill it, but we're really, really low on health. We're at 20% health now. With a roar of agony, the Degradon crashes forwards, forcing you to leap aside to avoid being pinned beneath its loathsome carcass. Breathless and shaking with the fatigue of this deadly combat, you lean against the wall and survey your surroundings. Before you stretches a cavernous hall, lit by the glow from fire-filled orbs hanging by chains from the ceiling. No, that's the same thing. Essentially the same, your skin prickles in reaction to the concentration of evil you detect in this subterranean part of Mulgaruth. You silently call upon your creator, the noble god Kai, for protection and guidance before continuing. Instinct prompts you to turn left, and within a few minutes you arrive at the chamber, which has a vast staircase of black marble ascending many levels, lost in the gloom above. Opposite this grand staircase is a large door, carved from a solid sheet of strange green metal, the likes of which you have never seen. It gives off a pulsating radiance that washes over the empty chamber, illuminating symbols carved into the walls and floor. You focus on these symbols, and in a chilling moment of realization, you decipher their meaning. The symbols form concentric circles that spell out a grim message. Humble thyself, for thou art worthless like the dust before he who dwells herein. Pay homage to the emissary of the Lords of Decay, for he is the instrument of their intention. Abase thyself afore his power. Hail, mighty Kadak of Mogaruth. Fear and uncertainty knot your stomach as you stand and stare at the door to Archdruid Kadak's throne hall. Your senses scream at you to turn and run from this place, for the air is so heavy with evil that you feel as if you're being slowly suffocated. But on this occasion you resist your instincts, for you have yet to discover where the Senaries are cultivating their deadly plague virus, and you know that the answer will most likely be found here. With fear running cold in your veins, you steel yourself and step towards the glowing door. As you come within a few feet of its pulsating surface, a band of intense light washes you from head to toe. A sudden rush of pain and nausea makes you drop to your knees, leaving you shivering fitfully. Your psychic magnified disciplines were insufficient to protect you against the physical effects of this powerful mind probe, but they were at least able to shield your true identity. The light, reflected from your Senna mask, activates a sensor. As you rise to your feet, you see the great metal door slide open. Beyond the door awaits an echoing hall that reeks of decay. Its walls are adorned with gruesome paintings that depict terrible scenes of human slaughter. One in particular catches your eye, and although you try hard to ignore it, you cannot turn your head to look away. It shows a pit of helpless humans writhing and screaming in anguish as they are slowly consumed by packs of wild-eyed plague dogs. The scene shocks you deeply, for the doomed humans all have distinctly summer-lending features. With difficulty, you tear your eyes away and force yourself to look elsewhere in the unfriendly hall. You see columns rising to the roof, each wound round with creepers and fungus that give off an unwholesome pallid light. Ahead you see another door, identical to that by which you have entered, and before it stands a desk on top of a plinth of green stone. A creature sits at the desk, huddled over the pages of a ledger upon which it is writing with a feathered quill pen. As you draw closer, it stops scrawling and places the quill into a nearby pot of ink, fashioned from the crown of a human skull. The creature raises its hairless head and stares at you unblinkingly with its solitary eye. "Who seeks audience with he?" it croaks hoarsely. "State your name, brother, and your purpose." You are standing in the antechamber of Archdruid Cadac's throne hall. To enter the hall and hopefully discover where the deadly virus is being cultivated, you know that you must persuade the creature to allow you to pass. If you decide to say that you've come from the battlefront with important news, turn here. If you wish to say that you're an agent who just arrived from the last lands with vital information, turn here. If you have animal control and wish to try and control the creature, turn here. We'll just say that we have generic important news from the battlefront. The creature looks you up and down with a suspicious tone. It asks, "Who is the high priest of your chapter?" You hesitate, and in that instant you see the creature's eyes widen with fear. You notice its bony hands gliding towards a button that protrudes from the side of its desk, an alarm button. Sure, we'll try and shoot him. With incredible speed, you unshoulder your bow and draw an arrow to your lips. Almost instantly, you release the straining bowstring and send the shaft burrowing deep into the creature's body, killing it instantly. The force of the impact lifts it out of its hollowed stool. Hollowed? Yeah, hollowed. Its hollowed stool and sends it crashing to the floor, where it wobbles back and forth grotesquely, like a giant fleshy egg, before coming to rest on its side. Swiftly, you search the drawers of the dead creature's desk, sifting through papers and ledgers for clues as to where in Mulgaruth the plague virus is being cultivated. However, the papers yield no useful information, though you do find 2 small levers set into the desk's surface. You examine them closely, and your senses reveal that they operate the 2 metal doors of the antechamber. You flip the right-hand lever, and the door by which you entered glides shut. You pause for a moment to prepare yourself before flipping the left one, for this will open the door to Cadac's throne room. You flick the lever and turn to approach the throne room. There is a faint rumble, and the great metallic portal slowly glides open to reveal the Archdruid's private domain. The room is little larger than the antechamber, however its furnishings and appointments are lavish to the extreme. Ornately carved furniture inlaid with gold and precious gem lines walls hung with priceless tapestries and paintings. At the center of the chamber stands a great black chair, sculpted to display demonic creatures paying homage to the Senoress. Glowing orbs hang suspended from the ceiling, bathing the chamber in multi-hued light that is continually changing in color and intensity. Although your eyes and Kai senses tell you that the chamber is empty, you are reluctant to pass through the door. A stench of pure evil floods from the room, wafting over you like an invisible sea that seeks to soil and corrupt all that it touches. Fighting back your nausea, you force yourself to cross the threshold and search the chamber. Of all the precious items which crowd this room, your eye is attracted immediately to 3 that seem to stand out. The first is a large crystal sphere that rests on a table beside the great chair. The second is a tapestry, the largest of all of them, that hangs opposite the door. And the third is a gold statue, which rests on a shelf to your left. I don't have the other new magic spell ability, so we take the other option. You are sorely aware that time is running out. It cannot be long before Cadac returns to his chambers, or the Senoress discover that they have an intruder in their midst. With this in mind, you set about searching the throne room for clues that could reveal the whereabouts of the lethal plague virus. Well, look at the statue. The statue is carved from solid gold. It depicts a delicate female figure with flowering hair and slender limbs. If it were not for the goat-like horns protruding from her forehead, and her long barbed tail, you would have thought this statue to have been modelled on a beautiful human girl. Propped up against the statue is a golden key. If you wish to take the key, record it on your action chart. Sure. You are staring thoughtfully at the statue, and suddenly your daydreaming is disturbed by a faint sound. Something or someone is now moving in the antechamber. You spin around to see a figure standing in the doorway. He is tall, and his sharp features are framed by a mane of flowing platinum hair. In his left hand he carries a wizard's staff, and in his right he holds a feathered quill, the pen of the creature who was once his scribe. "Who is it that murdered Cordask?" "Was it you?" he asks, his powerful voice devoid of the slightest emotion. But when you do not answer him, his expression undergoes a dramatic change. His eyes radiate an unearthly glow, and your skin tingles as you feel his psychic energies probing your mind. "You are not a brother," he growls and casts the quill aside. "Take off your mask and show your true self, assassin." With that, he advances towards you, his staff pointing straight at your heart. You raise your weapon defensively. In the blink of an eye, a crackling flame lights at the tip of his staff and comes roaring towards your chest. We do have the summer sword. You raise the summer sword and catch the magical fire upon the flat of its blade. There is a deafening crack, and you feel an electrifying jolt run the length of your arm as the flame is deflected and sent roaring back towards the caster. He regards the rebounding fireball with a look of cool indifference and proceeds to sheath himself in a glowing cocoon of pale blue light. The flames split apart as they collide with the protective shell, flowing harmlessly around his body and disappear into the antechamber beyond. "There is only one who wields such a blade," he spits, pointing at the summer sword, "and I'll see that you perish." "Kadak," you shout defiantly. "Ha! I rejoice that fate has brought me here to you, for it is you who will perish." You sense that Kadak's command is no simple trick. You can feel another presence in the room. You sidestep to your left and turn, keeping the druid in sight. At all times, you glance across your shoulder to the rest of the chamber. You'd been half expecting to see one of his henchmen sneaking forward with a dagger, and so the terrible sight which greets your gaze is doubly shocking. Stepping out of the tapestry, damn, we should have investigated the tapestry, which covers the wall, is a gigantic bull-like creature with a head and face of a man. Two needle-sharp fangs protrude from its blood-stained upper lip. Its eyes gleam with murderous lust that chills your soul. What had once, minutes before, been woven into the fabric of the tapestry strides towards you with slow, purposeful steps, its taloned hands outstretched in eager readiness to tear you apart. Yeah, we're not beating that. There is essentially no way we are beating something that has 50 combat skill and 50 health when we're on 17 health. Oh, well, that roll, we got a critical success. 0 damage to us, 14 to it. No, we both die next round. Rip. Ay, ay, ay. Well, increment that death counter. $50 bloody combat skill? That's ludicrous. Okay. We said it was worth keeping this, that we'll eventually be stronger. But for here, the magic, we never had a chance to use this. Never was there a single check for this mage magic skill. So we'll absolutely eliminate that. There were lots and lots and lots of checks for this new hiding skill, though. There were lots and lots of checks for this as well, the ability to spirit walk. No, I'll go with the hiding skill. We will take meal. Nothing else is especially useful. We will deposit the black key. And because we know that items are going to be deleted in a set order, we're going to rearrange the items in our inventory so that when it eats our items, it eats the meal, which is cheesy, but actually I don't need rope because we're going to get a rope in a sec. And we should check our special items as well. I don't want that sword. That sword is a bad sword. Or more accurately, it's a good sword, but it slowly eats you to death. Okay, there we go. We will take healing potion, rope, meal. Thank you. Same start as before, blah, 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 blah. You must go and stop the plague. We've organized a guide. Let's go the other way. Let's go through the forest this time. Shortly before midnight, you and the captain ride out of Stonewatch on 2 fine Slavarian steeds. It is another moonless night, and the plain is shrouded by darkness, yet you have no difficulty in seeing the terrain that lies ahead. Using your natural Magnakai skills of hunt mastery, every flowing contour of the grassy plain is revealed to you. The captain is not so gifted, but his special spectacles, so that's the same. He has the magic glasses as a reward for being so good in the war. There is great evil here, says the captain, observing your reaction. You would not be thought faint-hearted if you were to return with... No, this is just the same. He takes it. Yep, that is exactly the same. No, we'll go through the gap created by the fallen tree. We sense no enemies. We pray to Ishir. The forest is so dense you can't leave the track. We don't have animal mastery, so sucks to be us. Go here. These are beetles, except that they are far larger and have long segmented tails. They sprout wings and soar into the air. Oh joy. Well, at least they're running away instead of attacking us. We go deeper into the forest until our senses warn of danger ahead, and immediately we halt in our tracks. You hear a movement. It is above and behind you. With incredible speed, you spin on your heel and raise your weapon to parry a possible attack. Your actions are fast, but not quick enough to protect you from what lurks in the canopy of the branches high above. From out of the darkness, there falls a wriggling mass of thorny creepers that come snaking towards your head. Nimbly, you dive and roll across the spongy ground to avoid the creepers. Your swift action saves you from the first attack, but another mass descends, moving faster than the first, and ensnares you in its thorny grasp. We don't have animal mastery, even though creepers sound like a plant, not an animal, but whatever. They coil around your limbs and neck in an attempt to crush the life from your body. You resist the attack just long enough to raise your weapon and strike back. Your first blow tears away a great swath of the rising vines, and unexpectedly you see a fountain of ichor erupt from every severed end. Then the realization hits you that you are fighting a creature, not a plant. Okay, that explains why animal mastery would have worked. From somewhere above the canopy of branches, you hear the unearthly roar of pain. Once more, the remaining tendrils seek you out. This time they are no longer soft and fibrous, but stiff and studded with barbed thorns. The swirling mass strikes out, attempting to grab your throat. Desperately you hack at them, with devastating effect, yet one of the limbs avoids your blows and wraps itself around your neck. Pain fills your head and chest as its razor-sharp thorns bite deeply into your flesh and release a powerful acid. Due to the surprise attack, you lose 3 combat skill for the first 2 rounds, and it's psychic immune. Let's go. Goodbye. 1/5-ish of our health. As you sever the last of the flailing tendrils, the roaring above is replaced by a deathly silence. For a moment you remain where you are, gasping for breath, blood pounding in your ears. Your tunic is soaked with the ichor of your unseen attacker, and its rising stench is making it difficult to breathe. Then you hear the sound of snapping branches, and you quickly move aside as the body of the beast comes crashing down to earth. With weapon poised, you approach the huge shape. It resembles a bear, but is covered in leaves rather than fur. It possesses a bulbous head with 4 hooded orange eyes. Its bloated back and yellow-striped body is a mass of severed stumps. And from the back of its neck there protrudes a clump of spines, like a porcupine, but they ooze a sticky black venom. The sight and smell of the creature makes you want to linger no longer than necessary once your curiosity is satisfied. You sheath your weapon and press forwards. For an hour, you follow the muddy track as it twists a tortuous route through the trees of this accursed realm. Baleful eyes observe your passing, yet you choose to ignore them, for you sense that these watchers are no threat to your safety. They are lowly animals, possessing little intelligence and even less courage, though you fancy the latter would not be so were you weak and wounded. The path ascends a ridge and then drops steeply towards the floor of a mist-enshrouded valley, where you happen upon something that brings you to a halt. A moss-grown skull lies on the path ahead, its jawbone agape as if uttering a silent scream. Beyond it lie 2 skeletons in rotting mail, half buried in a nest of saw-toothed briar. Then through the mist you see weapons, rusted and mouldering, and the grizzled remains of a warhorse, its armoured rider slumped aside its ruined back. You are advancing towards the horse when you hear a sound that draws your eye away. It is a busy squeaking noise, muffled by the dense undergrowth. You leave the path and melt into the tangled trees. With careful steps you edge towards the noise, your senses straining to extract information from your surroundings until you become almost a part of the forest itself. You detect movement ahead, and from the corner of a thorny bough, from the cover of a thorny bough, you draw your weapon and wait in readiness. A line of rat-like creatures, each as tall as a youth, is wending its way along the forest path. Armed with crude and rusty weapons, clothed in rags, worn by human soldiers. They smell, this is just like before. They are the rat people, the Vazhag. Shielded by your skills, you watch as they pass by, then you sheath your weapon and continue heading towards the evil castle. If you wish to use your skill of divination to try and detect any psychic residues that might be lingering here, turn here. Sure, why not? Lose health. You focus upon 3 distant pits and allow your consciousness to pass into a trance-like state. To use your skill, a tingling sensation runs along your limbs and gradually an image takes form in your mind. From out of the swirling mist comes into focus a moving scene that is terrible to hold. A vast procession of partially clad soldiers are being herded into the pits by packs of blood-hungry rat people. They are bound with ropes and many are grievously wounded. They plead for mercy, but their pitiful cries go unheeded by the snarling, savage rat men, which stab them to death with cruelly fashioned spears before casting them into the 3 yawning abysses. The image fades and you return to consciousness. You discover that you are lying face down on the ground. Your limbs shake uncontrollably, and your forehead and chest are bathed in a cold sweat. You have tapped into the powerful residue of a psychic force that pervades this site, and this experience has left you in a state of shock. Lose 6 health. Slowly, you recover from the trauma and pull yourself to your feet. Ahead, the track crosses the plateau and passes within a few yards of the pits before continuing into a tunnel-like gap in the trees beyond. You advance, but every step that brings you nearer to the site causes your psychic senses to rebel. The images you saw and the aura of evil that lingers here is so strong that you find it difficult to move closer. You resolve to reach the gap at a run, but a sudden noise from behind arrests you mid-step. Shambling from the forest comes a horde of monstrous shapes, corpse-like beings that exist in a twilight between white life and death. Perch atop their withered bodies are hairless heads, bearing lidless red eyes and gaping maws, rimmed with hundreds of needle-thin fangs. As one, they utter a deathly groan, and you feel an icy chill electrify your spine. Fighting to suppress your mounting horror, you turn and run towards the gap. You are within a few yards of the rocky spur when a dozen or more of the fearful creatures appear from the shadows to block your escape. Once more they utter their cadaverous cry and advance upon you from both sides. You search the plateau for another means of escape, but there is none. You are trapped, and your only choice is to fight them or retreat towards the pits. Sure, we'll fight them. Marching shoulder to grisly shoulder, the horde advances, hungry for flesh untainted by disease and decay. You draw your weapon and pray to the sun god Kai to protect you in this moment of truth. With a rush, the first wave falls upon you in a mindless fury. With blurring speed, you deal them blows that would consign any mortal to its doom. But the grievous wounds draw neither blood nor ichor. Tirelessly, you slash and sever their gasping arms to prevent them from clawing at you. They howl, but not in pain. These ghastly cries are joyous and triumphant, for no matter how skillfully you fight, you cannot resist the weight of numbers, and inch by restless inch, they are forcing you near the pits. As soon as you recognize their strategy, you change your method and attack, and direct your blows at those part of the creatures that pass for legs. Yet, even now, those parted from limbs still advance, hunching and clawing their way forwards on their bellies, whilst those that were once behind trample them underfoot. Suddenly, the advance falters and the howling ceases. The grim wall of creatures draws back a few yards and close their ranks in readiness, perhaps for a final attack? As one, they open their mouths and give vent to laughter, the likes of which you've never heard before. Knots of pain build at your temples, and frantically you draw up your mind defenses to repel this tidal wave of evil psychic energy. Lose 12 health! Your defenses are too weak to resist the wave of psychic energy directed against your mind. It tears through your shields and explodes like a fiery ball of white-hot plasma. Deep within your brain, every nerve of your body is scorched by the blast, and you fight to remain conscious. Your body is contorted in excruciating pain. Hey, Elvama. So there is a evil druid thing that worships some sort of death or pestilence god thing, and they are making a plague to essentially destroy the whole world. They are supported by some of the people that had run away after the defeat of Gnag. So some of the people that we'd previously fought with Gnag, or previously fought even in like book 2 or 3, the Dagger of Vashnawan. Some of those people are also here. So new boss evil guy supported by the remnants of underlings that we have defeated previously in previous books. As the agony fades and your powers of cohesive thought return, you are dimly aware of another hostile entity drawing closer, attracted by your psychic screams. Then, from out of the shadows, you hear a dreadful rumbling roar. Something huge is stirring deep within each of the dark, forbidding shafts. As the ghoulish laughter of the horde reaches its pitch, you turn to see 3 giant, misshapen, cat-like heads rise up into the light, each perched atop a shaky body as thick as the trunk of a tree. They bare their fangs and shake off the tangle of human bones that cling to their stinking corpse-green manes. The sight of these unholy creatures makes you reel back in shock and utter a cry of disbelief. Your cry is lost among the barrage of screeching howls, Yet the cat things react as if they hear it, and together they come oozing from out of their dark, noisome lairs and glide slowly towards where you stand. We do have Psychic Attack. In desperation, you draw upon your reserves of psychic strength to shape a ball of energy, hurl it at the nearest abomination. It strikes its subconscious, and the beast's eyes shut tight in pain as the force of your mind strike bites deep into its unshielded cortex. The attack is successful, the creature is wounded, and it slithers back into the safety of its pit. Yet, despite seeing what has befallen their brother, the remaining two creatures continue to advance, undaunted. They have fairly high combat skill, but they have extremely high health. We will use both our bonus psychic attack. Well, actually, no. Only use the extra good new one. We are using the Summer Sword. We outskill it by a lot. We insta-kill it. Fantastic. The instant you slay the last creature, an eerie silence envelops the sight. The howling horde has ceased their dreadful caterwauling, and now their mindless faces contort with sorrow, as they stare at the sundered remains of the pit beast twitching and convulsing in the last of its death throes. You spin around to face the horde, your steely gaze taunting them to approach you if they dare. None possess the will to continue. And slowly, one by one, they turn and melt away into the surrounding trees. Lying on the gore-stained ground close to the pit's edge, you notice a coil of fine copper chain. You pick it up, and in so doing, discover that it is attached to a key embedded in the mud. You sense no aura of evil surrounding the key, and its cut and crude markings tell you nothing about its origins. If you wish to keep it, sure thing. We are too full. Fair enough. Let's eat one of our potions. No, I said eat. So that we make space for the key. You leave the pits and hurry on your way through the leafy tunnel. For several miles, you progress in near darkness, broken only by a few scattered rays of green light creeping through the ceiling above. At length, the tunnel ends and you emerge into a clearing, where stand the derelict remains of an ancient stone dwelling. You approach it warily, sensing the presence of magic. Yet inside its shattered walls, you find nothing but mould and clumps of sickly black grass. Your skills of divination tingle as the presentiment of sorcery increases. Suddenly you realize that the source is not here in this ruined hut, it is approaching the hut. Through a crack in the stone, you see a gap appear in the wall of the trees opposite the group, and a group of Vazhag enter the clearing, their ratty faces sniffing at the heavy, humid air. Among their number is one who is not of their breed, human in size and stature, though his hooded scarlet robes make it difficult to be sure. For a moment, you catch a glimpse of the glassy green mask covering his face, and at once you know that this is one of the Senna Druids. In his hand, he carries a rod of gold, radiating an aura of magic which you detected when first you entered the clearing. The Druid calls his pack to a halt. They cease all movement and watch in quiet awe as he raises the rod and use it to make slow, deliberate sweeps of the clearing. You draw on your skills of invisibility and pathmanship to shield you from detection, as he sweeps the rod back and forth and levels it directly at the derelict hut. Waves of psychic energy flow across your mind. They grow in intensity, probing and testing your defenses. I don't have Psi Screen. Okay, so if we're forced to redo again, maybe we'd pick Psi Screen, because this way has just punched us in the face repeatedly for not having the new Psi Screen. The psychic protection afforded you by your middle tier skills buckles under its concentrated assault. You feel an unbearable pressure behind your eyes, and a white-hot core of pain erupts inside your head. You're sent reeling to the ground, lose 4 hit points. As it fades, you hear his voice barking orders to his rat escort. You have been detected. We do have the Summer Sword. The hellish noises coming from the clearing include a terrifying whip-like crack that sets your ears ringing. From the tip of the Senna's rod there has erupted a stream of crackling blue light. It arcs towards the dwelling and comes bursting through the blocks of ancient stone, ripping them asunder as if they were no more substantial than bales of mildewed corn. Sharp slivers of stone pepper your legs, and the blast's concussion leaves you wide-eyed and gasping for breath. Lose 2 more health. Through the smoking hole in the wall, that you see that the Vazhag pack has halted in their tracks. They hold their grimy paws to their ears and grimace as the druid prepares to launch a second blast. We have the Summer Sword. You unsheath the Sun Sword and point it at the red-robed druid. From his rod leaps a second charge, a lance of crackling fire that spirals through the hole in the wall and fixes itself to the Summer Sword like a ravenous vampire let loose upon a maiden's throat. Instantly there is a sizzling splash of blue-white sparks, and flashing webs of electrical power run back and forth along your arm. You experience no pain. The dark power of the druid's rod is no match for the goodly might of the Summer Sword. Slowly and deliberately you draw back your sword and cast away its unwelcome sheath of fire. The ball of crackling fire arcs across the clearing and sighs through a pair of trees with a splintering roar. The severed trunks teeter for a moment and then come crashing to the ground, narrowly missing the druid. He screams in pain and fury. In frustration, he curses you and shouts at his rat minions, commanding them to attack and rip you to shreds. With hatred blazing in their blood-red eyes, they advance towards the ruins, each with a rusty weapon. Sure, we'll fight them. Yeah, I think we're fine there. Use psychic attack as well. Yeah. We're down to 10 HP. You struggle to extricate yourself from the bodies of the rat people that you have slain. As you rise to the summit of the grisly heap, you glimpse the druid scurrying towards the gap in the trees by which he and his late minions entered. You know that he must not escape. If he were to reach Mogaruth and raise the alarm, your mission and probably your life will soon be over. Finally, there was a mage check. We don't have alchemy, but we do have a bow and arrow. Random number table. Actually, it was possible if... No, it's not possible. Because we have Grand Mastery of Bow and the Super Silver Bow, there was no way we could fail this check. As your arrow skewers the druid's wicked heart, he takes a few faltering steps, then raises his arm and vents his death cry, before collapsing into a saw-toothed briar. You run to where he has fallen, and curiosity prompts you to prise away his green mask and look upon the face of this servant of evil. It is an ugly, disease-riddled face, human in shape, yet lacking any trace of humanity. Reluctantly, you search him and discover the following items: a dagger, a robe and a mask, some money. We will say goodbye to Meal, and then we will take the robe and the mask. We will take the money, though. Your skills tell you that the golden rod no longer had any magical aura. Its destructive powers vanished the moment its wielder breathed his last. You stoop to prise it from his dead hand, but soon as your fingers touch its surface, it disintegrates into a fine and foul-smelling dust. With twilight but an hour away, you leave the clearing via the gap and hurry along the muddy track beyond. Warily, you follow the track from the deepening gloom, your senses alive to the evil that permeates every root and branch of this forbidding forest. As darkness closes in, there arises from out of the mire a mist which smothers the ground. It leaves you shivering despite your efforts to shield yourself from its clammy touch. Night no longer restricts your vision, and as the track ascends towards a wooded wooded peak, you see the outline of a ruined stone watchtower perched atop a rocky knoll. You sense that the tower is deserted, and keen to escape from the mist, you climb towards a crack in its granite base. You crouch to enter the jagged breach, and in doing so disturb a host of crab creatures nesting within. In a frenzy, they scuttle away from the tower, disappearing among the surrounding rocks in a blink of an eye. Aching with fatigue and mindful of the perils that lie ahead, you settle yourself into the corner of the rubble-strewn tower and try to snatch a few hours of sleep. Your slumber is disturbed by strange and unwholesome dreams, formed from the fears suppressed by your conscious mind. You are haunted by phantom shapes that take the form of friends and countrymen. Kai initiates under your tutelage and simple summer lending folk, their heads bowed and their faces pitted by disfigured by plague. They drift past you in a seemingly endless procession. You awake with a start, your pulse racing and your forehead glistening with beads of sweat. At first, a sense of hopelessness washes over you, brought on by the vivid memory of your nightmare, but as your consciousness returns, so too does your inner strength. You perceive the dreams as a warning of what would happen should your quest fail. The realization strengthens you. You have slept for several hours. You feel somewhat refreshed, gain some health. You gather your equipment and weapons in readiness to resume your journey. You decide that to travel openly along the track would be too risky. Okay, so now we've met back up with the other storyline. We do have a mask and robe. We order the rats to accompany us. They run away. We shoot them. Success. We approach the thing. Can I please have that go away so I can see? Here we go. Attempt to distract them. You go full Karen against them and they surrender to your Karen skills. How dare you stop me from going where I want to go? I demand that you speak to the manager. Last time we went to the lab. So we'll try the library instead this time. The corridor makes a gradual descent towards a single wooden door shod with heavy iron fittings. You press the handle carefully, and to your surprise, the door opens inward without a sound. You enter and push the door closed before beginning your exploration of the archive. The library contains thousands of books and time-yellowed parchments, stacked in uneven rows upon shelves that line every wall. The air is heavy with their odour, and your senses prickle with the sensation that you are in the presence of the works of great evil. You pass from one chamber to the next until you spy two druids seated at a table in an adjoining room. They are studying a large tome bound in a pale-coloured leather. A wave of nausea makes you swallow hard the instant you realise the book is covered with human skin. The two druids, who appear to be a little older than a dozen years apiece, are chattering to each other excitedly. You move closer to the room and eavesdrop on their conversation. After a few minutes, you learn their names are Nora and Monad, novices brought here after having been orphaned. They seem devoted to studying the evil law. They ruminate at length about a great day of retribution that we will enjoy before the year's end. They finish their studies and rise from the table. Hurry up, we'll be late for Kadrian's sermon. The other one nods apologetically. As the latch clicks shut as they leave, you emerge from your listening place. No, let's search the room. You scan the walls of the reading room and your eyes pass over the books and scrolls stored upon its shelves. You feel an almost uncontrollable urge to tear every single one of them to pieces. The wickedness they contain, gleaned after thousands of years of perpetuating the vilest herbcraft known to Magnamund, is so potent that you feel your Kai strength waning in their presence. Lose 2 health. Mindful of the insidious effect of these books, you search as quickly as you can. On one of the lower shelves, you notice, we get a puzzle! An ornately carved wooden box. banded with gold and inlaid with precious gemstones. You carry it to the main table, where the light is brightest, and as you place it there, you hear a riddle emanating from a design engraved on its lid. It speaks in the Seneres tongue, but you instantly recognize the words. My treasure is hidden from view, but I will open myself for you. If you ponder this puzzle, then state the right answer to determine my fate. Divide 80 by 1/2, so times it by 2, 160. Then examine what you see. 160. From this number, subtract 14. 160 subtract 14, 150, 146. What remains will open me. 146. The only thing I was worried about is the interpretation of divide 80 by 1/2. Maybe it meant to say halve 80, but it did literally mean divide 80 by 1/2. You speak the answer, and instantly the lid of the box clicks open. Congratulations, your reckoning was correct. Dividing any number by 1/2 actually doubles that number. The puzzle that you've already solved, we will explain the reasoning. Inside the box, you discover a map of Mogaruth, which details its dungeon levels. There is a special item which you carry. No, this is a special item you carry, which is tucked in your tunic. You need to do not discard any other special item in favour of it, if you're already carrying the maximum number allowed. An unexpected shuffling noise somewhere in the other part of the library causes you to freeze. Someone else has entered the library. You look over your shoulder at the door and decide that now would be a wise time to leave. You hurry out of the library and follow a series of corridors which lead to the end of a large antechamber. This domed hall is decorated with tapestries which depict Seneres legends, ignoble and infamous deeds that were perpetrated during the age there. This is the same as before. A single heavy door on the opposite wall is the only other exit. You notice it's slightly ajar. There's chanting through it. You go through when you enter the sort of ongoing religious ceremony. So this is the same as before. There's lots of people, and here's the thing that I was explaining to Vama. You look with loathing at the congregation. In Maine, they are Seneres, but there are also others among them. Old adversaries whose origin you recognize immediately. Acolytes of Vashna, Dracarim, Vassagonian outlaws, Hammerlanders, and even a few Gieks. No doubt the remnants of the Darkland armies have found sanctuary here after their master's demise. Anyway, the semi-high priest, the not-quite-high priest, turns up. He gives his little speech. This time let's go the other place. Let's go to the vestibule. We do have a robe and mask. A sudden noise startles you, and you spin around to face it. A section of wall is moving inwards, carrying with it the robes that are hanging there. A figure dressed in a hooded purple cloak and clasping a large leather-bound book appears in the opening. As he steps into the room, a section of wall closes behind him. "What are you doing here, brother?" he asks. You sense that he is a druid of high rank, and you know that you must answer convincingly if you are to avoid his wrath. If you decide that actions speak louder than words, attack him. You draw your weapon and attack him with lightning speed, but he is more than a match. In the blink of an eye, he creates a magical shield, deflecting your initial blow, causing you to stumble and overbalance. As you recover, you feel a wave of psychic energy washing over you. And for an instant, you see his cold eyes widen with shock as he discovers who you really are. He screams a curse, and suddenly there is a dagger in his hand. Its blade a yellow spike of fiery luminescence. He lunges for your throat, forcing you to retreat into the room as he stabs and slices at the air with his sorcerous weapon. We will use Kai Surge. Go. 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 So not too much damage to ourselves. With one combat. As you land your killing blow, the druid crashes upon the floor, driving his magical blade deep into the flagstones. For a moment he writhes in the throes of death, then stiffens and lies still. As you step away from his body, you suddenly sense a new danger. A number of the congregation are approaching, prompted to investigate the noise of your fight. You hurry to the section of wall from which the druid appeared and search for a way to make it open. You discover a lever, and within seconds of pulling it, the concealed panel glides inwards, allowing you access to a secret passage. You enter, dragging the body of the high priest behind you, and then push shut the panel. Just as the inquisitive congregation pull open the vestibule door. You abandon the body and pass along a narrow passageway, descending by steps and slopes until you reach the chamber, lit by two large black candles, fixed into holes on the surface of a marble slab. On the nearby table lie the following items: arrows, meals, daggers, swords, mirror, rope. I mean, I will quite happily fill up my arrows. There's no reason not to take that. Mirror could be useful. I've got enough meals. And I've already got a rope though, so we'll just take the rest of the meals. Opposite the slab, there is a door which opens into a narrow corridor. You step through and follow this corridor towards a distant chamber. It was a box where all the numbers add up to 15, so the magic number was 15. We already solved this when we went the other way, when we went through the laboratory. Yes. Let's ignore the door this time. We do have one of the keys. Random number table. We do not roll well enough. We are forced to fight the big zombie thing again. Annoying. Ow. That was good though. We're down to 20 health. We destroy the big zombie amalgamation horror thing. We don't have size screen. There's this guy. So, last time we said we were this and he didn't believe us. What if we do this option? You notice a flicker of suspicion register in his eye. He is not present at this hour. Dictate your report to me and I will see that he receives it. As you approach the desk and draw closer, you see that it has no legs. Its body rests in a crevice hollowed out from the seat of its stool. Its bulbous body is wedged there like an egg in a cup. Report your news, brother. I am waiting for you to begin. We will kill him, now that we have gotten close. He's unprepared for your attack. You strike out and hit its head, killing it instantly. The force of your blow lifts it... Yeah, this is the same. So we kill it. We discover the lever that closes the door and opens the one into the Archdruid's chambers. We don't have that new skill. Last time we did the statue and it wasn't good. We should do the tapestry, seemingly. No! The tapestry did not work. I thought we would see that the demon was real and then we'd stab the demon in the tapestry. So the druid turns up again. We use the summer sword to reflect his magic back at him, but he laughs and makes a shield. You will now have to fight my monstrous creature thing. It is absolutely time to eat a potion. Fight. Use the extra attack thing. Go. 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 This time we defeat it. It took half of our remaining health. Morning, Salar. You've won the fight. Turn here. The demonic exterminus screams in agony as your killing blow pierces its heart. It sways for a moment, defying gravity, and then reels backwards and crashes down upon the table which stands beside Kadak's black chair. The awesome bulk of the creature's body crushes the table to matchwood and breaks open the crystal sphere that rests upon it. Immediately there is a loud boom and a tremendous rush of putrid air knocks you down. A funnel of darkness engulfs the body of the exterminatus, and with stunning suddenness there is silence. Both the creature and the shattered remains of the sphere vanish. You stagger to your feet and turn to face the archdruid. The shock of what he has witnessed has left him open-mouthed and drained of colour. He is mumbling incoherently and trembling with fear. You take up your weapon against him and advance towards him, determined to rid Magnamund of this vile druid once and for all, but the sight of you drawing closer, snaps him out of his trauma and galvanizes him into action. He weaves his hands in front of his face and in an instant is shrouded in a cocoon of light. You strike at the light, but your weapon passes clean through it, meeting with no resistance. Then the light fades and you're left standing alone in the empty throne room. So he teleports away. The overpowering aura of evil, blah 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 blah, blah 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 blah. In a moment of chilling discovery, you fathom the secret of the crystal sphere. The sphere was not of this world. It was fashioned in the plane of darkness, the domain of Na. Na, king of all that is evil. Through the sphere, the Dark God maintained contact with Archdruid Kadak, directing him to fulfill his schemes of vengeance. The destruction of the sphere has rid your world of a terrible device, a channel through which the concentrated evil of Na has been allowed to pour unchecked. You open your eyes, and a feeling of well-being envelops your senses. You have just awoken after a deep and refreshing sleep. Or as if you had just woken after a deep and refreshing sleep. A rustling sound draws your keen eyes back towards the tapestry from which the demon thing appeared. It is crumbling to pieces. As the rotting scraps of material fall away, a portal is revealed through which you glimpse a scene that revives hopes for the success of your quest. Through the wide opening in the chamber wall, there is a gallery which overlooks a vast windowless hall. You approach the gallery's railed parapet and stare down at the score of druids who are working at tiled tables positioned in rows along the floor. Upon some tables rest porcelain troughs filled with oily fluids and seethe with a constant shower of electrical sparks. Other tables support dozens of glass boxes of differing sizes. The smallest contain rats, the largest horses. Hundreds of pipes and tubes run around the walls, feeding the supply of fluids and gases to the experiment tables. The fumes rising from this diabolical laboratory sting your eyes, but you ignore the discomfort and continue your observations, eager to take in every detail of the evil work taking place below. It is not long before you recognize that the hall is where the deadly plague virus and vaccine is being produced. Nah, yeah, what an evil bloke. You know that you must act with all haste, for Archdruid Kadak is still alive, and wherever he is at present, you can be sure he's plotting to capture or kill you, probably both. Below lies that which you have come here to destroy, but how could you accomplish this task? Relentlessly, the seconds tick by as you attempt to formulate a plan. Then you see something that sparks an idea. The pipes that feed the fluids into the laboratory are connected to a massive cauldron suspended from the ceiling by a winch. You focus upon a plaque fixed to the side of this great vat and magnify your vision, enhance, until you can read what has been engraved upon it. With a grim satisfaction, you read the words, "Danger, concentrated acid." Here is the key to the destruction of the virus. So our enemies have built their evil lair such that a giant vat of acid is at the top, hanging precariously, awaiting to destroy everything below it. If you can cause the cauldron to tilt over, it will discharge its contents into the hole below, flooding the virus-laden table with thousands of gallons of acid. Elated by your daring plan, you look for a way to reach the winch that controls the angle at which the cauldron hangs. It is positioned high up on a platform on top of an iron gantry, which is accessible only by ladder. Fortunately, this ladder begins on the far side of the gallery. Confident in your purpose, you hurry around the gallery towards the ladder. You're within 20 paces when suddenly the harsh clang of an alarm bell fills the hall. You have been spotted. Intruder! Screams of intruder echo from below as you run headlong towards the ladder. You reach it and begin to climb towards the secondary platform. You are only 6 rungs from the platform when suddenly the faces of 2 acolytes of Vashna appear over the edge. They curse and spit on you as they try to stab you with their spears. We don't have magic, we don't have alchemy, so holding on the ladder with your left hand, you unsheath your weapon with your right and lash out at the acolytes above. You must lose 4 combat skill because they have the high ground. We insta-kill them by rolling a critical success, whilst we have more combat skill than them. As the last acolyte drops lifelessly to the platform, you sheathe your weapon and take hold of the ladder, which ascends to the winch. All eyes in the hall below are watching your ascent, and then suddenly they realize what you are trying to do. Pandemonium breaks out. Hysterical screams of fear and anger merge into a dreadful cacophony that fills the hall with clamoring echoes. You glance down at their faces, contorted with rage. And as you do so, you glimpse a new threat to your safety. A handful of the rat people archers are scurrying from out of the portal which connects Kadak's chamber to the gallery. They spread out along the parapet and begin firing at you with their lacquered bows. Black-fletched arrows whistle past on either side of you, their barbed heads passing dangerously close to your leg and feet. Roll the random number table. We could apparently critically fail here, and that probably insta-dies. We only get medium fail, which is take some health damage. You get shot. You reach the top of the ladder and haul yourself onto the winch platform. Now the whistling shafts strike and splinter uselessly against the underside of the metal floor that hides you from the archer's view. You run to the winch and examine the gears and chains, try to understand how they work, and find a way to cause the cauldron to discharge its corrosive contents. However, it is designed to prevent this from occurring. The only way you could make it spill its deadly load is by severing a thick metal pin that secures a heavy chain to its rim. You glance over the edge of the platform at the confusion raging in the hall below. 3 druids, having recognized your intentions, are trying desperately to gather together virus samples from their cultivation vats. The vats are fixed to the tables, triple sealed with protective glass to prevent accidental leaks. And it is precisely this elaborate protection that now confounds their frantic attempts to save their cultures. Out of the corner of your eye, you notice that the first of the rat people archers is climbing the ladder to the winch platform, and you know you must act swiftly. We don't have Grandmaster immunity to poison and fire. We don't have alchemy, although now we've had like 2 alchemy checks in a row. You draw your weapon and slide it between the pin and the body of the cauldron. You cannot break the iron pin, but you may be able to lever it away. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have the summer sword, add 4. If you're using a spear or broadsword, use 2. If you're using a quarterstaff or dagger, subtract 2. Okay, success enough. Straining with all your might, you pull back on the weapon in a desperate attempt to prise the heavy chain from its mounting. There is a loud crack, the support pin has popped out, and the massive weight of the cauldron is suddenly removed. The chain whips like an angry snake. We don't roll low enough that it possibly insta-kills us, though we do suffer a little bit of damage. The heavy chain whips towards your face, making you throw yourself to the floor in order to avoid decapitation. Fortunately, your reactions aren't swift enough to avoid being hit totally. The chain glances your shoulder, knocking you flat on your back with the force of its impact. You scramble to your feet quickly and advance to the edge of the platforms, where you watch with grim fascination as the gigantic acid-filled cauldron plummets below. The cauldron smashes down into the center of the hall and explodes with a devastating effect. spewing its deadly contents in all directions. A tidal wave of acid engulfs the tables, submerging and burning everything not made of stone, porcelain, or glass. The pitiful screams of the druids rise above into a thunderous din as they and their deadly work are consumed by a merciless sea of corrosive. Suddenly, an arrow passes within a few inches of your face. The rat people have reached the top of the ladder and are poised to rush into you, onto the platform itself. Anxiously, you look around for some means of escape, but when none readily appears, you fear that you are trapped. Then you notice an observation platform jutting out of the wall, on the far side of a hall, more than 30 yards away, and some 10 feet below your present position. A daring escape plan forms in your mind's eye as hurriedly you cast off the robe and mask, a disguise which, now redundant, and prepare to enact your vision. Remove them from your action chart. You reach out and grab hold of the chain which once supported the cauldron. Using your strength, you draw it back and leap into the air as the momentum carries you off the platform. Your stomach churns as you swing across the hall and glance down at the dreadful carnage taking place below. Angry squeals and a clutch of arrows follow in your wake as the rat people try desperately to prevent you from getting away. Grimly, you cling to the chain as it nears the end of its arc. You try to ignore the arrows whistling by on either side of you. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have Hunt Mastery, add 2. If you have enough health, add even more. Insta-fail? Insta-fail. Yeah, that's a bit arse that there's like 3 checks in a row where you can very probably just insta-fail the whole book at the end. This destruction saved millions from a terrible death, and the selfless courage you display in bringing it about will never be forgotten by the free people of Magnamund. Sadly, though, death is the price you have paid for your victory. Your life and your quest ends here. The author would probably just say roll better. This is combat skill, this is combat skill, this is the ability to heal. Yeah, we're going to change that for the Hunt Mastery because that helps us not fail those series of checks at the very end. Get rid of the black key. Rearrange these so that it eats our meals if we go the other way again now this time. So we go meal, 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 meal with extra healing, rope. Actually, you know what? We'll pick up a new rope. We should also deposit some money because we're over full on money. Done. And this whole adventure doesn't seem to have any, have any use for money. No, it's undone this. So let's fix this again. Aggravating. Meal. 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 Healing. Meal with built-in healing. Get rid of the rope. Deposit the money again, because it's doubtlessly forgotten about our having so much saved up money. Oh, that's the issue, is that I'm not clicking the proceed button at the bottom right after doing the depositing of the money. Okay. Well, one more time, but this time I know where to click. Meal, 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 meal with healing, healing, deposit all the monies, Continue. Yes. Healing, rope, and then meals. Thank you. We know both of the ways through. Honestly, I preferred the mountains over the forest, now that we've taken both paths once. We do have Hunt Mastery now. Okay, head towards the east. We don't have Grandmaster Nexus. Take some damage. Hide here. The rat people come. We can't super hide. We are forced to attack him. We kill him. Success. Steal his mask and robe. Trading it for meals. Steal his money. Okay. Continue, 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 continue. Giant snake thing. No, I'm gonna take more damage to do more damage. Okay, giant snake thing defeated. We can take the other option here for once, so stick to the underside of the drawbridge. Because you killed the monster, they come down to investigate and they spot you clinging to the underside of the drawbridge. And they spot you. Yeah, we'll fight them. Why not? Bring it. As the last of the Ratmen succumbs to your fatal blow, you look towards the bridge to see the druid gibbering with fright. He's horrified by the ease with which you disposed of his escort. He gathers up his robe and runs for safety. The tunnel beyond the bridge is narrow yet well lit, and you have no difficulty following your prey. Stealthily and speedily, you close upon him like a lion running to ground a frightened fawn. He glances over his shoulder repeatedly as you draw nearer, and then in desperation, skids to a halt beneath one of the many hanging bowls that illuminate the passageway. He raises both hands as if surrendering, but as you approach, he grasps the underside of the heavy bowl and heaves it at you. Suddenly, with a sizzling rush, a gallon of blazing coal oil spills over the stone rim and comes gushing towards your face. We don't have immunity to fire, so we lose 4 health. He assumes that you're going to die, but instead you kill him, search his body, take his jar of blackberries, except that we're full. Fine, let's eat one of our meals of extra health and make space for his jar of blackberries. Continue. North Tunnel, why not? We do possess Hunt Mastery this time. Okay, pull the concealed lever. You pull the iron lever and at first nothing happens. You hear a click followed by a hiss of escaping air as the concealed door unlocks and glides open. Quickly you enter and close the door to avoid being seen by the rat guards. The narrow corridor lies beyond, lit by a gloomy crimson light which is filtering through a threadbare curtain hung from hooks in the ceiling. Automatically you cast your eyes around, checking floor, walls and roof for traps, but detect nothing unduly suspicious. Then you approach the curtain and through its moth-eaten fabric you spy a small bedchamber. A grossly overweight rat person, wrapped in furs, lies sprawled upon a divan in the centre of the room. He is snoring fitfully. Around him are strewn heaps of all manner of items, rusty weapons, tarnished armour, boxes, candlesticks, trinkets, baubles and books. In the merchant stores of Holmgard, this would be rejected as worthless junk, but here, in the rat holes of Skardus Mountain, they are no doubt passed for treasure. Across the chamber beyond the sleeping rat person, you see another curtained archway. Sure, we'll investigate the curtained archway. Ooh, it's one of these things that was mummified. You draw aside a mouldy velvet curtain, and once your senses are assailed by the unwholesome aroma, redolent of decaying flesh, beyond the curtain is a narrow passage that descends by means of a wooden ramp to the edge of a dark circular pit. Cautiously you approach the rim and peer down into this reeking hollow. There, lying asleep on a mouldering bed of straw, 10 feet below, is a gigantic dog-like creature. It has a shiny blue-black hide, and its huge crocodile-like jaw is muscular, although its powerful limbs are scarred and pinned with an unsightly disease. A few thin rays of light descend from the shaft in the rocky ceiling directly above the pit. Intrigued, you look upwards and notice a clump of sickly foliage at the very top of the shaft, which is partially covering the entrance. You focus on the gap and conclude that the shaft must lead directly to the surface at a place somewhere in the eastern foothills. Sure, we'll try and climb up. We totally won't fall into the doggo pit. The crumbling rock wall and lack of secure handholds fails to thwart your natural climbing ability. With relative ease, you scale the shaft and emerge upon a mountainside, at a place hidden beneath an outcrop which is ringed by wind-worn boulders and scrub. Early morning sunlight illuminates the surrounding hills. Beyond them you see a vast expanse of forest, a sea of sickly green-grey trees that radiate an unmistakable aura of evil. The position of the sun and your pathmanship skills informs you that you are looking upon the forest of Ruil from the eastern foothills of the Skardus Mountains. The land appears deserted, the only unusual feature being a wide dirt track which wends its way eastwards through the hills towards a gap at the edge of the grim forest. You consult your map and conclude that this must be the Skardus Trail, a secret route used by the druids, which leads all the way to the fortress itself. You resolve to follow it, but first you must eat. Sure thing, eat. Done. This is the same. So you find the tower, you hide in the corner of the tower, you sleep, you wake, you had the evil dream. You find here, we do have a robe. Tell the rat people to accompany me, they run away, we shoot them. We get there, we go full Karen. We tell the guards, how dare you delay me with these trivialities, let me pass. And they give in to your Karen powers. The library was better than the lab, so we'll do the library again. Search the room. It was 146. Success. It gives us a special map, which we don't seem to have any use for, which is weird. We will go down the staircase. We do have the robe and mask. The answer to this was 15. We will investigate. There's a copper key. Not that we need more. Actually, we do need more because we haven't found any this time. Okay. Continue. We've turned enough book pages that we've actually gotten back up to full health. We can use the key that we just got to open the door. Random number table. We don't succeed at hiding. So we have to fight the big monstrous amalgamation monster thing. We succeed. We go into the room with the Eggman. We kill the Eggman. We go into the Druid's inner chamber. Let us examine the sphere. It's the only one we haven't done. As you approach the sphere, its sparkling crystal core is darkened by mist. Rapidly, this smoking discoloration expands until it transcends the confines of the sphere and begins to take shape of a swirling funnel that comes closer with every second. The moment that its edges engulf your vision, you sense a dramatic change take place, as if you've crossed over a boundary which separates consciousness from dreams. The sensation of falling assails your senses, and with panic, you try desperately to extricate yourself from the cone of darkness. Pick a number from the random number table. If you have psychic defense, add 3. If you have immunity to poison and things, add 1. If your current health is above 20, add 1. If your health is low, subtract 1. We rolled really well. You draw on all your strength to resist the terrible power which is sucking you towards its heart. In desperation, you call on Kai and Ashir to aid you, and in response to your prayers, you sense yourself rising as the swirling vortex begins to recede. Abruptly, the swirling funnel evaporates, and you'll find yourself on your hands and knees, breathless and trembling, staring at the cold stone floor of the throne room. Slowly you rise, and then a faint sound behind you warns you that something or someone is moving in the antechamber. The druid turns up. He tries to attack us with his magic. We tennis racket with the summer sword, his fireball back at him, but he raises a magical shield. He summons the evil monster out of the painting. Well, out of the tapestry, which we then kill. Although it is worryingly close. We are down to 9 health. 9 health. We win the fight. The druid is scared. He teleports away. We find the secret lab. We don't have these magic abilities. 1 with Medallion of Protection. Do I have any more potions of healing to use first? Let's go. Let's go. Potions of healing eaten. Do the best we can. Take more damage to do more damage. We took 6, that's not too bad. Okay, we have Hunt Mastery. So we succeed. We aren't hit by an arrow. The archers try and get towards us. We try and tip over the big vat. We roll well enough that we tip the vat over. Now, do the chains hit us? The chains do not hit us. The heavy chain whips towards your face, but your reactions are lightning fast. You pull yourself out of the way. You move forward to the platform's edge to watch with grim fascination as the acid-filled cauldron plummets into the hole below. It starts melting everyone. This time we have Hunt Mastery, so we at least cannot critical fail. Well, actually, we could critical fail if we roll 0. But we don't roll 0. We only medium fail. suffer some damage. You fix your eye on the observation platform as you wait for the chain to reach the end of its arc. Upon the instant that momentum stops, you release your grip and hurtle through the air towards the platform's rail. You have timed your jump to perfection, but your landing leaves rather a lot to be desired. You collide heavily with the rail, bloodying your nose and bruising your hands and shins, yet you manage to hold tight and prevent yourself from falling back to your doom. Winded and bleeding, you drag yourself over the rail and stagger towards the inviting darkness of the doorway that services this platform. Beyond the doorway is a flight of stone steps that ascends into the gloom. You pound on the steps, your heart beating in time with your feet, and emerge at a chamber which is lit by foul-smelling torches fixed to the walls. 2 passages lead out of this room. One heads towards the west and another towards the east. You pause for a moment to use your senses of divination and pathmanship, but you detect nothing. West. The west passage continues for several hundred yards before ending at a heavy oak door. As you approach it, you can sense evil at work somewhere beyond, and the stench of corruption stirs your anger. With weapon in hand, you run at the door and give it a mighty kick, sending it crashing open. With ease, you have gained access to the chamber, but you are stunned by the awful sight that greets your eyes. You have entered a chamber constructed entirely of black marble, illuminated by artificial light. A dozen spheres of white flame hang motionless in midair near the ceiling, each positioned directly above an operating table, bearing the corpse of a Slovian soldier. You are shocked to see that their skulls are open and empty. Their brains float in glass tanks standing at the head of each table, yet still connected to their respective bodies by coils of thin copper wire. 2 Cenarese initiates are attending to the corpses, their hands sheathed in transparent gloves, and they are clad in close-fitting papery suits. Startled by your dramatic entrance, they abandon their work and seek the protection of their mentor, a druid who wears a hooded purple cloak of a high priest. He faces you across the hellish chamber, lips drawn back in silent, gasping snarl as he fumbles for a golden rod. "Kill him!" he commands. They draw their daggers, but they're far more frightened of their tutor than you. You dispatch the 2 initiates. He now raises his weapon to attack you, the golden rod, and a web comes from it surging towards your face. We summer sword tennis racket it back towards him, and you destroy him. Search his body, why not? He has a potion of drug. Yes, he has a potion of performance-enhancing drug, which we will happily take. You follow the narrow passageway, which gradually ascends towards the north. The clanging of a distant alarm bell reminds you that all of Mogaruth has been alerted to your presence, and in light of the devastation that you have caused, you know better than to expect mercy should they catch you. After a few minutes, the passage arrives at a hall where a railed balcony overlooks a deep circular shaft. A broad stone staircase at the north wall ascends to the next level, and you stride swiftly towards it. As you pass the balcony, you pause for a moment to stare down at a fascinating sight. Hundreds of feet below, at the base of the shaft, huge vats filled with a sickly brown liquid bubble and seethe as if they are boiling. You notice scores of robed druids standing on great iron gantries suspended above these vats, each one equipped with what appears to be a butterfly net. They are busily scooping up large brown objects which keep bobbing to the surface. You use your skill to magnify your vision, and as the scene looms larger, you see that the objects are alive. Your stomach churns with revulsion when you realize that this is the spawning bats used to create the disease-ridden rat people. Do we stand and fight them? We'll stand and fight them. You move to the center of the hall and unsheath your weapon in readiness for the approaching patrol. The frog-like Zarg at the first thing that you see. It's tethered on a chain, its ugly face pressed close to the stone steps. It shuffles down the steps, snuffling and snorting like a bloodhound as it locates your scent. Close behind it come 8 rat warriors, armed with swords and maces. The instant they see you, they squeal with delight and fan out in an attempt to surround you. Freed from its cruel handlers, the Zarg waddles away into the passageway as quickly as it can to avoid the fight that is about to commence. We kill these guys, we use bonus attack. We kill it in 2 hits. Butter scratch. Breathless and bespattered with the blood of your slain foes, you step back from the bodies which lie heaped around your feet and sheath your gore-stained weapon. The alarm bell continues to toll, warning you that every living creature is being summoned for the hunt. You are hungry and you must eat while you run or lose 3 health. Sure, whatever. The stairs lead to another hall on a level 50 feet higher. Here, 2 staircases ascend to the left and right, and a gloomy tunnel disappears directly ahead of you. Your senses pick up something moving at the end of the tunnel, and when you focus your infravision along this dark passageway, you see another rat patrol heading straight towards you, led by 2 acolytes and a pack of dogs, of Ruil war dogs. Eager to evade the enemies, you glance at both staircases and declare which one to climb. Let's go left. At the top of the stairs, there's a dining chamber, piles of rubbish strewn across its tiled floor, and what remains of a small fire. An arched portal on the far wall offers hope of an escape. You notice the following crap. You may pick them up. We might happily have some arrows. And a quiver, why not? But everything else is full. Continue. You run through the maze of corridors and narrow passageway, up flights of stairs, and across dingy halls and chambers. On several occasions, you are forced to hide when a patrol passes within a few feet, but your wits and camouflage skills keep you safe and undetected. At length, you reach a pillared hall on the surface level where you hide from the patrols until the coast is clear. Daylight streams in through the hall door, and from where you are hiding, you can see the keep and tower beyond. Your hope rises when you notice that the keep is deserted and the drawbridge is still lowered, tempting you with a direct escape route. Suddenly, another bell tolls, adding to the persistent din of alarm. It is coming from the tower and signifies that the portcullis is being lowered. Sure, we'll try and Indiana Jones our way under it. You take a deep breath, fix your eyes on the descending portcullis as you race out the door and sprint across the cobblestoned keep. It's less than 3 feet from the ground when you enter the arc of the tower. In desperation, you dive at the shrinking gap, and as you hit the ground, you roll over in hope of avoiding being crushed by the heavy iron-tipped portal. Pick a number from the random number table. Add 2 if you have Hunt Mastery. If your health is high enough, add another 1. So even though we roll almost minimum, because we have Hunt Mastery and are on high health, we do not critical fail and get smushed. We might have gotten smushed if we rolled a literal 0. You clear the gap with inches to spare, but not entirely without cost. It snares your backpack, and as you roll away, it is torn from your shoulders and crushed. You must now erase all backpack items and meals. You spring to your feet instantly and run headlong across the drawbridge towards the far side. Arrows rain down, but your speed and agility keep you from being hit. Within seconds of reaching firm ground, you are confronted by a group of 3 rat people returning from battle. 2 are armed with spears, and they face you on foot, but the third is astride a captured Slovian steed, wielding a cavalry lance, and you can tell by the way that the rat man balances it that it is skilled in its use. The 2 spear wielders squeal their battle cry and attack simultaneously. However, this cry is quickly transformed into duet of pain when you strike out and kill them instantly. They drop to the ground almost immediately, and the rider is upon you, jabbing at your chest with the tip of its lance. You duck the first thrust and steady yourself to meet the second as the lancer turns around and bears down on you once more. I have too much combat skill. He basically is bound to insta-die. Yes. We did as much damage to ourselves as he did to us by using our super psychic powers. If you win combat, turn here. The rat person lancer tumbles lifelessly to the ground, startling its horse, which turns and bolts towards the forest. You act to prevent its escape by using your animal control. You soothe the creature and coax it to return. You mount the steed and head off along the trail, which leads to the River Storn. You are less than 5 miles from the bridge, where you hope to finally make good your escape to the free lands of Slovia. By keeping to the forest's edge, you avoid the traffic of rat people troops moving back and forth along the trail, and by the time you reach the banks of the Storn, your spirits are high. When you do catch first sight of the bridge, your hopes of making a crossing here, however, are soon dashed. A fierce and bloody battle is raging upon the Gazod, the formidable stone bridge that joins together the lands of Ruiel and Slovia across the River Storn. Its central span is wreathed with smoke and flame, and the approaches are heaped with dead bodies of both armies. On the far side of the river, over 300 yards away, you can see the scarlet battle banners of Slovia fluttering in the soot-laden air. Regiments of foot soldiers are positioned on the bank, waiting nervously for orders to assault the bridge. You stare at the fast-flowing waters and, after careful thought, decide to brave the currents and attempt to swim across. You send your horse into the forest and wade into the icy waters. You're only waist deep when the currents catch you and swiftly bear you downstream towards the bridge and the battle. You're passing beneath the central span when suddenly a section of the parapet collapses, showering you with rock and flames. If you have hunt mastery and assimilance, add 3 to the number you've chosen. We roll high enough that we don't suffer any damage. Drawing upon your very last reserves of strengths, you fight against the powerful current and succeed in avoiding being hit by the deluge of rocks and flames. As your strength subsides, you are swept under the bridge and, minutes later, you find yourself washed up on the west bank of the Storn. The company of Slovian archers drag you from the water and, fearing you to be a spy, they take you to their captain. He recognizes your cloak and tunic, and at once you are afforded the treatment and respect befitting those who hold your title, that of a Kai Grand Master. The captain sends word of your survival to the Palmrians at Hollanda, where the following day you are reunited with Captain, your guide guy, and with Guildmaster Bane. Later that same day, the president of Palmrian, Elector Manatine, arrives with his entourage and, upon learning of the success of your daring mission, orders that an official celebration take place throughout the Republic. You receive the thanks of a grateful nation, and in recognition of your bravery, the Elector presents you with the Golden Star of Palmrian, the highest award his country can bestow. Congratulations, Lone Wolf. You have won a major victory over the Senarese and removed a threat that could have devastated all of Magnamond. Yet, the struggle against evil goes on. Within a few months of your triumphant return to Summerland, a grave situation develops. A situation which threatens the life of our closest friend, Guildmaster Bane. The nature of this threat and your quest to overcome it awaits you in Book 14, entitled The Captives of Kag. Whew, that was a long one. Join us next time for The Captives of Kag. Holy moly. Normally one of these is like about 2 hours, but because we got to the essentially very end and died, we had to do the whole thing again. Ugh. Alright. My voice cannot promise to take a second book that's that long again. I can't do 7 hours of mostly continuous reading. So I think I'm going to go have a bit of a break, and we might come back a bit later with... I have a sort of platformer? Kind of? Platformer / RPG game to check out a bit later, in which we will be running away from Scotland. But for now, we can throw you along to Pizza Nort. While I have a break and rest. Oh, no, I spelled that wrong. No, I didn't. Oh, I thought I spelled that wrong, but I obviously didn't. While I give my voice and mind a bit of a break. So cheers all. Thank you for joining. I hope you had a lovely time. Enjoy Pizza Nort playing Nobunaga Ambition. I might be back in an hour or so. And we'll check out Scottish Girl Simulator.